Is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash, the smash.
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something.
The gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, "I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source." Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Yeah.
I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically said.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning, my lovelies, and welcome to the Sunday Show. Congratulations to you if you've actually set your alarm to arise and shine with me this morning. I'm going to be sending your certificate in the post because you deserve it. If you're just up because you're busy and working, well done you. You are the backbone of Britain. And if you're up because, I don't know, you needed a wee and you decided you couldn't go back to sleep, well done as well. Congratulations to your bladder for having such discerning taste. We are going to be with you all the way through until 10 o'clock this morning, giving you the Sunday headlines, and it's a bumper maelstrom of madness to come your way. I bet you can't guess what we're going to be focusing in on today. No, of course it's not the migrant crisis. Of course it is, because we're learning time and again how this ridiculous government want to deal with this situation. And you know what they want to do? Then instead of policing the actual crisis, they want to police us, as protests seem to be mounting across the country outside various hotels. The government are training an elite team of police officers. No, not to capture the illegal crossings. No, not to smash the gangs. Absolutely not. No, not to stop those young men who want to go out and harass women on the street. No, not to crack on and get after those people working in the black market. No, not after the migrants who are dealing drugs and doing illegal deliveries and setting up cannabis farms. No, not even the ones who are making porno videos in their migrant hotels. No. That is not what this elite police squad are going to do. They're coming after us. That's right. They're going to be snooping around on our social media to see if we fancy going and waving a placard outside a migrant hotel if somebody is, I don't know, sexually attacked a young woman, because we're in the wrong. We're the people who are the danger. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, common sense. And also, talking about the lack of common sense, our Egypt of a Home Secretary has decided she's going to create new legislation, get this, to crack down on illegal crossings when the dinghies have more than 80 people in them. If this isn't regulating a holiday coach, what are you going to do next? Make sure everyone's got a little bottle of water and a seatbelt? It's supposed to be illegal anyway. It doesn't matter if there's 5 people in the vessel or 500 people in the vessel. What is this piece of nonsense? Oh, you can't have more than 80 migrants in a small boat. You absolute Egypt. So there you go. Already got that off my chest, and there's going to be so much more to come. And poor old Epping. We're going to be speaking to a Conservative councillor from Epping a bit later, because they may have succeeded in getting the Bell Hotel closed down. But don't you worry, because just outside is a former RAF base, which is currently housing 800 solo migrant men. they're just going to ramp that one up to 1,200. And no doubt they'll be getting free buses into Epping where they can continue their marauding ways. We're also going to be having a little look at some of the TikTok videos these lovely young men coming over are making. That's right, they sit there with their little selfies in the dinghy, Turkish teeth, neck tattoos, coiffed hair, designer clobber. Poor things escaping war. We're going to be having a little gander at some of those. Meanwhile, I think today is the day that Sir Keir is off to meet the Donald in Scotland. And in theory, the newspapers are saying they're going to have a clash over Gaza. That's what this is going to sound like. We're not going to recognise Gaza. We're not going to recognise the Palestinian state. OK. So there you go. That's pretty much a précis of what the conversation is probably going to go down like in the afternoon. Right, I'm going to be joined for the next hour and a bit at least by Lauren McEvatt, former Conservative Special Advisor. Good morning to you, Lauren.
Good morning.
Now, I said to you, bring the fire, bring the fury. Have you got it?
It's the second coffee, so we're getting there.
Good.
And I've turned my alarm off, so it's not going to go off in the middle of
Is that your sort of morning alarm? It's sort of like every like the 8 a.m. alarm that harrows you.
8 a.m, my goodness, that'd be a lion.
I know, that's a blimmin' lion, isn't it?
Really
8 a.m, one can only dream of the
Exactly.
treasures. Right, OK, and listen, if you want to get in touch and throw in your 2-bit, you know what to do. The number is 03444991000 if you want to register your interest to have a chit-chat with Lauren and I in the studio, keep us company, keep us awake. That is your normal network rate. So basically, that kind of means it's free, doesn't it? Because you're paying that network rate anyway. 87222 is the number if you'd like to send me a text message. If you're going to do that, you've got to write the word talk before you write your text. That way, it knows how to wend its way down the funnels from the roof to the Cape Canaveral in talkTV towers. And 03444991000 is also the number if you'd like to ping us a little WhatsApp or leave me a cheeky little voice note that I can then play out on air. I do love a voiceo. Let's get stuck in, shall we? Right, I've already alluded to it, but, you know, I hate this government. I don't often say hate. In fact, hate doesn't even...
You gave no
abhor,
indication whatsoever.
Detest, despise, but they scare me. They scare me, Lauren, because this is exactly their playbook, isn't it? We've got a situation where people are protesting outside these migrant hotels. We're starting to get crime statistics. We know 1 in 100 of those characters coming over on boats have actually been in front of magistrates. So that's not a bit of pickpocketing and a pinch of the bottom. That's kind of a serious crime that they're charged with. We also know there have been people making porn videos, people with knives under their pillows, people shoplifting in the West End where calculations of 75% of all the luxury goods being stolen are finding their way back to the migrant hotels to pay the traffickers. We know now what is going on. These aren't poor little refugees fleeing war zones. No, they're young chancers who want to come for a better life, who are involved in criminality because they've already paid a trafficking gang to come here. And instead of the police smashing the gangs, which is what we were told would happen, which is just nonsense anyway. You can't smash international criminal cartels. Instead of that, no, they're creating an elite team of police officers who are going to monitor social media for anti-migrant sentiment.
And this is when they're done cracking down on the teenagers looking at porn. After the Online Safety Act came in and banned them.
Oh yeah,
from
which
doing
anyone who actually knows how to use a computer will just avoid that barrier.
Did you see the spike of VPN downloads in the United Kingdom?
Oh really? Great. Probably half of them coming from migrant hotels.
This is what the Online Safety Act is going to end up being used for. Is wrong thought by what the government is defining as anti-migrant sentiment,
anti-migrant sentiment.
Exactly.
Are we all supposed to stand there and get out our little tambourines or get out our pom-poms, do a little special dance cheerleader for Mohammed coming from Syria? Woohoo! We can't wait to have you. I mean, what anti-migrant sentiment? Guess what? I am chock full of it, sunshine. Put that in your police record book. I don't want the migrants coming over on boats. Come and feel my collar, sunshine.
I don't think anybody wants them coming over on boats because too many die and it is incredibly dangerous, and people shouldn't be getting in boats that are going to sink once the French slash you with a knife coming off the coast of France, which appears to be the best defence the French police have got at the moment.
Which is probably about 1 in 50 boats.
Well, exactly. But this, complaining about people complaining about an economic, migration system in this country that is no longer working. The Observer has statistics today that in a poll that they have commissioned, immigration now replaces the economy as the number one concern of people in Britain. Now, if the Observer is saying that this is what's going on in Britain, the Labour Party are going to risk alienating themselves from the population, and that is exactly what Angela Rayner...
They're going to risk it. Have they not managed it already?
That is exactly what Angela Rayner was warning about in Cabinet this week.
Isn't it great that these do-gooders in Cabinet don't actually care about the fact they're trashing our country by letting in laws?
So I think, to be really clear, Angela Rayner was not saying that.
No, exactly. They don't really care about that. They care more about their polling.
No,
they care
what
more
Angela...
about the public going tonto.
No, to be really clear, what Angela Rayner was concerned about is that were steps not to be taken to control migration by the Labour Party, there would be civic unrest in the United Kingdom,
that's what
which
I'm
is the
saying.
correct concern to have.
Yes,
that you absolutely must control migration, because otherwise there's going to be civic unrest.
But that's what I'm saying. Could they not get it into their idiot heads that actually having wildly open borders, having unvetted people breaking into the country from Lord knows where,
this is the problem with
a bad idea? The public aren't crazy to think that's a bad idea.
This is the problem with having, an international human rights lawyer as Prime Minister who allows his entire cabinet to get bound up in the legal complexities that exist from the ECHR that prevent us from doing anything about a lot of this.
Honestly, I still think that it cannot be that difficult.
Exactly. The only defence left to them was to try and cover up the breakdown of crime statistics, which Neil O'Brien has finally fought for publication of, which is why there are statistics to be published that break down into country of origin for crime statistics. Is because people like Neil O'Brien and Nick Timothy were yelling at the government in the chamber and saying, you absolutely have to release these. It's unacceptable not to do it.
And the government knows when the public have eyes on that sort of information, when they can see the overrepresentation of certain men from certain countries in sex assaults, for example, the public are not going to take that information lying down.
No, they're really not.
And this is why they're trying to suppress all of this information, because they know what they have done to the safety of our streets. They know what they have done to the risk of women, their integrity up and down the country. They know full well that we've got international criminal cartels with their gangs.
They have also inherited a system that they had not understood was going to spread this problem around the country. One of the things that Rishi Sunak's government did, which I actually, for what it's worth, think was the right thing to do, was to mandate that migrants be moved around the country rather than only being in coastal towns, or that's how you ended up with migrant hotels in Altrincham and places like that, is because the government was saying the burden has to be shared around the country. And what you see as soon as that happens is an increase in sentiment against migrants coming to the United Kingdom that spreads around the country and is no longer isolated
so
to the coastal towns.
It's not just the people of Dover waving pitchforks and going, we've had enough.
Exactly.
It's Sunderland.
It spreads the problem around the country, and I think that the Labour Party significantly underestimated how much of a problem that was going to be for them around the country, and that's why they have a massive reform-shaped problem that's coming in the same constituencies that they now have a Zara Sultana, Jeremy Corbyn problem with. There's going to be an enormous division of opinion there, and the Labour Party are going to fall into the crack in the middle.
Let's talk about, I'm going to come back to the elite police force who are there to snoop on us to make sure that we...
Elite police force is now a bit of an oxymoron, so...
Right, that's true. Just to make sure we tolerate this huge cultural vandalism taking place against our country. Let's look now at the Home Secretary.
This is so silly because it then puts a number that's okay to carry in the boat.
This is what I find mental. The Home Secretary wants to make crowding more than 80 migrants into small boats a criminal offence. How about putting even one migrant in a dinghy across the channel?
Also, I thought that the whole point of this was
offence.
It was already a criminal offence. You can't legally come to the United Kingdom, except you can, because they reversed everything that the last government had done to make it illegal.
It's like she's the health and safety for a coach trip for Saga holidays.
Meanwhile,
you've got to make sure people wear their seatbelts.
Meanwhile, there's absolutely no deterrent in place to stop these people. That's what the Rwanda scheme was supposed to be, a deterrent. And I read this really interesting article the day after the Rwanda scheme was announced. I think it was The Guardian who went down to Dover and interviewed 3 migrants coming off a boat. One was from Sudan, one was from Eritrea, and one was from somewhere else in Africa. I can't remember which country, but somewhere else in Africa. And they were asked about the Rwanda scheme, and they said, well, if we knew we were going to be sent back to Africa, we wouldn't come.
Well, obviously. Why would you waste all that money?
It is a deterrent.
The risk your life and waste a load of money
it is a deterrent,
A to B to
but
C to D to come to Britain to find yourself back.
The deterrent no longer exists anymore. The French are now complaining that we have no deterrent because of how easy it is to illegally work in this country, because we have no identification papers. And the government every week is saying, well, we're going to do this, and that means that Deliveroo and other delivery companies for whom these people are riding and working and sharing accounts on. We're going to provide these companies with information, and therefore they can crack down. The onus is not on businesses to police the border when there is no identification paper that is provided by the United Kingdom government in any way that can allow for a business to adequately understand who's legally allowed to work here and who isn't.
Right.
And we need to have a conversation about what digital identification looks like. And it's a different conversation to what ID cards looked like 20 years ago. The world, I think, has changed substantially, and I think that this country is in a much better place.
Let's talk about that, because, look, I'm torn when it comes to digital ID. I'm perfectly okay. When I lived in Belgium, I had a residence card, and you had to whack that thing in front of your doctor.
I have an Irish
all
passport
the time.
card.
Yeah, and I had no problem with that. But I think a lot of people in Britain, when you look at this elite police force, for example, are very sceptical about whether soon enough this digital ID card, if it's tied to your medical records and tied to this and tied to that, will suddenly, over the course of time, because often things develop in a stealth-like manner to become very different from what their initial purpose was, will start becoming more like the social credit system of communist China, where it's like, well,
I think
shouldn't have bought that, should you?
I think
Didn't
that's
pay that bill, did you?
I think that's probably a bridge that would not end up happening in this country. I grew up in a country that had ID cards. I grew up in Hong Kong, and one of the great things about it was that I could go with my card, and because I was a permanent resident, I could go and use the medical system in Hong Kong.
Right.
And
it's like the
grade below permanent resident, you are not allowed to use the Hong Kong medical system on the Hong Kong rate. You are charged more. And so just presenting the card meant that you got a certain kind of bill versus presenting a different card would give you another kind of bill.
Except, of course, when we all get issued this digital ID, someone like me who is a high taxpayer will probably have to pay extra for my NHS treatments. I've seen this floated in the newspapers as a suggestion, and yet older, what's his name, who's gone on the boat, will be first in the queue for the dental appointments and the eye exam.
I think that the conversation we have to be having about that is either nationalising the GP system or charging through the GP system, where you charge £30 for an appointment on the same barrier to entry as free prescriptions, for example.
Right.
So if you qualify for free prescriptions, you don't pay.
Right.
And if you do, then but
this is my argument.
Or nationalise the GP system so they can no longer be running badly run businesses around the country.
But this is my problem. By 8 o'clock this morning, I've stopped earning money for myself, and instead I'm paying for other people to have lots of free stuff, which I would then have to pay anyway on top of. So if we had that system, I would be paying 30 quid to see a GP. I don't mind, actually. I actually don't mind.
I think that's a fairly decent system. It's a system in Jersey and the Channel Islands.
Well, because I treat medical care with a reverence. I've had a stinking cold the last month, but I know it's a stinking cold, so I just go to bed early and have some turmeric tablets. But the problem is, I would be the one paying the 30 quid to go see the GP, while some character who's broken into the country would be getting it for free. And like I said, I watch that clock, a 4-hour show. When it gets to 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm then actually working to pay for these people in hotels who on a weekend would rather like to come and probably rape me.
Or you can create a system whereby if you don't have the identification papers and you are not paying the surcharge for the NHS through the legal visa system that we have in this country, where you're paying to use the NHS because you're not a British citizen, then you have to, you cannot use the medical system for pre-existing conditions.
That would be great.
There are stipulations you could put in place for it. This government wouldn't do it, but another government might.
I hope they blimmin' would, because the problem is, like you said, this government and the previous government, quite frankly, treated all these people coming into the country. They were the ones who had a barber shop in their hotel, a nurse and a doctor on site, dental checkups when other people don't stand a chance of seeing a dentist. So even if we had this magic card, what it would mean was they get the freebies and we pay for it.
Yep.
Right, we're going to have a little break now because I'm hot under the collar. I don't know about you.
You're going to have a very early morning cardiac arrest.
Oh, I'm very, very angry. I'm just angry. Let's do a few messages before we go to break to inspire some of you to throw in your 2 bits. Hi, Alex. Loving your shows on a weekend. Thank you. I had BBC One on while waiting for your show to start. Why did you do that? Their main story to start the day was the women's football. Unbelievable. Thank you, Sue from Essex. Keep up the great work. Well, it is the final of whatever it is, final of football. Euros, thank you. I'm glad someone who understands football knows what it is, and we're in it. So, that's probably a good thing. Good morning. Alex, it's again, I woke up and saw another headline that makes me furious. The useless Home Secretary is now going to make it against the law for the small boats to have more than 80 people on board. Exactly. It is a nonsense. Sean in God's own city of Gloucester. Have I woken up in 1940 again? I'd rather be in 1940 somehow. There was a nice spirit there. Blitz spirit.
Yes, but you also had the Blitz.
Well, yeah. Sometimes I look back
There's
on
a
that
swings
war
and
and think
roundabouts.
It quite
look
fun.
back on it
yeah, those
with
were
all
the
your
days.
personal memories of having been there.
Yeah, sometimes I look back on the idea of doodle bugs and think, yeah, that looks better.
No, it really doesn't.
Morning, lovely ladies. Great start to a Sunday. Can't believe how deluded and basically crappy this government is. They just don't listen. Ed from Ducklington. Oh, Ed from Ducklington. That's right. Do you want to go to Ducklington? It sounds amazing.
Where is it?
It's in West Oxfordshire, apparently.
Is it?
And I'm going to, during the break, I'm going to Google it.
Driven through them.
What do you imagine Ducklington looks like?
Not enough ducks.
Really?
Yeah.
I have this vision that
I feel
it's
like
going
they
to be
don't lean
like
into
quaint
ducks.
cottages. It's going to have a nice old pub on a village green called the Dog and Duck. It's going to have a little ford with little ducks swimming on it. Everyone's going to have privet hedges.
Possibly. Yew tree hedges.
I'll probably Google it, and there's going to be like an incinerator and a landfill.
It won't be
or
privet.
something.
It'll be yew trees.
But yeah, actually proper churchyard, proper yew trees. But we're Googling this during the advert break.
Excellent.
Good morning, Alex. No surprises with today's news from the government and its members. After 50 years or more of dumbing down education, this is what you get. Oh, I think it's 50 years or more, not dumbing down education, but infiltrating everything with Marxism. Thought the Cold War was supposed to have beaten communism. Instead, we just invited it in and became it.
Well, this is why I think we should ban TikTok, because this is what the Chinese are doing to
We're going to be discussing that one after the break.
Yep.
Right, and that break is coming now. See you on the other side.
Nothing. And I've been told, I've not been told how the Matrix or how they just come to their decision. I've not been told whether my human rights have been considered as part of the decision-making process. As I say, they received my complaint in full. They received the council officers their point in full, and they made a decision based on that. But they had a several-hour meeting, and during that whole process, they weren't able to cross-question. So they didn't have the ability to ask me questions, or if they had an opinion, they couldn't clarify that opinion.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, Hello, my lovelies. Good morning to you. Well, Lauren and I did Google Ducklington, and it's everything you dreamed it would be. Yeah. It has a massive lake,
village,
loads of ducks. It's got a cute little village hall. It's got the pub on the village green. It literally is exactly as I painted it. Yeah. It's a proper place, that.
It really
Cotswold
is.
Stone.
That's
nice
lovely.
People. Don't worry, they'll be building a migrant hotel there soon. and the migrants will be like, roasting the mallards on a spit in the park.
No, that's not what's going to happen. I've read in the Mail today that it's in fact all the Americans who are moving to the Cotswolds.
That's true. The Oxfordshire Cotswolds. They all go in there.
Ellen DeGeneres has moved in, renovated a farm. It's no longer big enough and is moving somewhere else.
I had heard that Jeremy Clarkson ran out of water to irrigate his crops because Ellen DeGeneres was filling up her swimming pool.
Well, there's rules against irrigation from water sources in general, so it's problematic if it doesn't rain.
There we go. Hosepipe bans, basically.
Yeah,
and
pretty
the rest
much.
of it.
Well, no, if you go down to Zimbabwe, you'll see massive, widespread irrigation of farmland through massive, round crop irrigation tools. And we don't use them here in the same way because we have rules about what we can irrigate farmland with. So farmers are, for a very large degree, reliant upon the rain in the United Kingdom.
Well, that's a crazy idea, isn't it?
It is indeed, which is why one of my friends is harvesting 3 weeks early and his wheat is about a foot shorter than it should be.
That is basically like being on Clarkson's farm right now, this conversation.
But this is part of, this is
Do you
part
like
of what...
tractors?
You love a tractor,
I bloody love a tractor.
You love a tractor, I do.
I cry at tractors.
If all the listeners hadn't worked out, both Alex and I are from the West Country.
Yeah. We were just discussing during the break, we were sort of comparing notes on taxi services, train stations, the Gloucestershire Massive is what we are.
Cricklade and Burford both have a decent Indian takeaway that goes quite far.
Cricklade's actually got a Kenyan restaurant, which I cannot wait to go to. Having lived in Kenya, I'm like, it's the last place.
It's pretty decent.
Well, no, it's very old town, isn't it, Cricklade? And the source of the River Thames.
I went through it for the first time in 15 years because they shut the road up to Fairford to resurface it, and I accidentally had to go through Cricklade on the way back from the station.
I love Fairford. I was at Fairford just the other week for the all the fighter jets. React. I love it. I go every year.
Shakes the foundations of the house.
Yeah, do you know the B-1 bomber was supposed to fly?
Yeah, there's nothing like feeling like you're being buzzed when you go to the loo.
Yeah, I remember that. When the B-1 bomber used to fly into Fairford, all the car alarms would go off. It's that sort of sonorous in its...
Well, because if you live anywhere near Fairford, you have the planes coming over 3 times a day, 4 times a day anyway. So this is something you're fairly used to.
You see,
what I do miss from air shows is I miss the Vulcan.
Oh, I know.
I used to work for Gerald Howarth, who was, I think, chairman of the Vulcan bomber...
Vulcan to the Sky.
The Vulcan to the Sky Trust. And I miss the fact the Vulcan doesn't fly anymore.
Well, my late granddad helped build those sort of Rolls-Royce engines, famous for the Vulcan howl.
Yeah.
This haunted sort of
noise. For dropping our only... what was it? We had the Blue Danube. Was the bomb, I think, that the Vulcan could carry, and
the predecessor to the bunker buster.
But famously, we only ever actually bombed anything from the Vulcan once, and I think it was our own runway at Port Stanley, because we were stopping the Argentinians from being able to use it.
How very British and pragmatic of us. Right, let's talk about. We were going to talk about TikTok, and so let's do that because let's look at this video show, because basically this is. People who are selling their, crossing channel wares on TikTok have subscribers and are making loads of money. So here we go. Here's a nice migrant who's showing off to all of his friends. There he is. Look at his lovely Turkish teeth. Honestly, he can see a dentist. Look at them gnashers. Oh, look, there we are being handed some water. Whoop, whoop, on my way to Britain. Got his designer clobber on, his lovely hair. He's got a little neck tattoo. Looks like some sort of GQ model. And there he is. He's boasting to all of his friends that he's on a British beach. Look at that lady there in the red bikini. Oh yeah, you don't get that down the beaches of Baghdad, do you, sunshine? But this is the problem, right? That guy, I'm sorry, he doesn't really look like he's about to be conscripted to be a child soldier. He looks well nourished. Like I said, look at his lovely little tattoos there. He's got a bob or two, doesn't he? And he don't need an NHS dentist. He's got better gnashers than my own dentist. And I'm sorry to say this, but you can tell that video is surreptitiously homing in on the woman in the red bikini, bragging rights to his mates back at home. You haven't even seen an ankle in the last month, have you? Look what I get to feast my eyes upon.
This is part of the problem with TikTok, is content like this, and aside from the brain-rotting content for the youth of today that TikTok is pumping into the United Kingdom. And the algorithm that we get in the UK from TikTok is not the algorithm that people in China get from the ByteDance equivalent that's available in China. And this is, TikTok is a national security issue. And this is part of the reason why people like Tom Tugendhat last year refused to campaign on TikTok and said, no, I'm not giving information.
I won't touch that thing.
I'm not giving information. I don't have it on my phone. I've never had TikTok on my phone.
I pop up on TikTok a lot. If you've got TikTok and you see my little mush bobbing up on your screen, I ain't put it there.
Exactly.
I don't want to.
But if I was the Chinese and I was looking to fundamentally destabilise the West, TikTok is how I would do it.
I must admit, though, I did actually have a teenage girl who's a friend of my. Her family's a friend of my other half, and in his village in Wiltshire, and she loves a bit of
Wiltshire.
Well, that's his choice. He chose Wiltshire.
Wiltshire?
Oh, he's still there. I'm in Gloucestershire.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I am going to very close to the border of Wiltshire.
I had my heart broken by a Wiltshire boy earlier in the year, and everybody said, it's your own fault, it's Wiltshire. Dodgy end too, Salisbury.
That is the dodgy end.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Best to stick to the county.
Dark down those parts. Joanna in Salisbury has written to say, hi, Alex and Lauren. Elite police monitoring. I can see a plus. I won't have to worry about my heating bill if they put me in the slammer. There you go. So, no, Joanna often messages us from the wilds of Salisbury Plains.
Oh, gosh.
I heard, actually, that a lot of these Afghans who are coming our way, or have come our way, are being sort of scattered around Salisbury and the like.
Really? I think they're just being scattered everywhere, aren't they?
Probably just scattered. Yes, scattergun approach. But anyway, going back to TikTok, this is the thing. We've now got elite police who are going to be monitoring me and you, talking about these MyGo hotels and the boatios, and being I don't know, tongue-in-cheek about how welcoming we are to people breaking into our land. They're going to be monitoring us. Meanwhile, the people smugglers on TikTok are making thousands of pounds by having subscriber accounts.
And the Home Office appears to be playing pin the tail on the donkey trying to find them.
I know.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, how do we smash the gangs? I don't know. Maybe have a little look at this TikTok account.
It's
selling a trip over the channel.
It's an ease of policing issue. It's easier to police, Doris from possibly Ducklington. Let's go for the alliteration. Let's go for the alliteration. Putting a tweet out saying, "I think that there are too many migrants in the United Kingdom." It's easier to find her. She's not.
How dare you, Doris, you villain!
She's not trying to hide herself. It's much harder to find criminal gangs of people who are stealing phones across London or moving drugs. It's much harder, for example, for there to be any kind of police involvement in policing all those shops in the West End that are not paying business rates and not paying corporation tax and moving their ownership around the place.
It's not like these places are trying to hide themselves either.
So there was this fantastic piece of journalism this week from an organisation called London Centric, which is run by Jim Waterson.
He used to be on BuzzFeed back
and he was
in the
at
day.
I think he was at the Guardian for a while as well.
Yeah.
And so London Centric is basically like the Evening Standard's natural inheritor of London news, basically. But it is an institution set up by Jim, and they did some fantastic reporting this week on a guy whose last name is Aziz, I think, who is the ultimate beneficial owner, or the ultimate owner of a whole lot of properties around the West End, and he pays for the Ramadan lights to come on, and he pays.
Oh, this one who wants to turn the Trocadero into an Islamic centre.
All of these shops are moving their ownership between students who are never then paying their bills and then leaving and going back to Pakistan or back to Bangladesh, and all these shops are not paying VAT. But they've, London Centric went and stood someone next to a till in a couple of these shops, and their takings over the course of an hour, extrapolated to a year, would way catapult them into the VAT and the corporation tax thresholds. That's the kind of illegality which is genuinely starving the Treasury.
I love the fact that you've got this sort of gang lord who's running all the candy stores and the illicit
No, because what he's saying is he's moved to Abu Dhabi in order to avoid the non-dom tax
has he?
and capital gains tax that the Labour Party, his pals, have put in place. But he's saying that it's it's the responsibility of the individual leaseholder.
I love the fact that we've got this sort of
it's mad.
Aziz Soprano.
So if your listeners really want to sort of get irritated at HMRC coming after them for £150 that you've miscalculated on your self-assessment last year, go and read London Centric's reporting this week on the sweet shops and the souvenir shops in the West End, and get really, really, really angry about HMRC.
Who's trashing Oxford Street with those candy stores, not paying his taxes.
Well,
living in
crucially,
Abu
he would
Dhabi.
say that he is not. that the leaseholder of the building is at fault here. And under the law in the United Kingdom, he is not incorrect.
But the thing is, you know, it's very cynical, and he's there basically trashing our high street with all the candy stores, living over in Abu Dhabi.
And he's sorted off to Abu Dhabi.
And then he's there, has the audacity to be like, and I demand that there are Ramadan lights on Regent Street. I mean, it's just all... I'm sorry. It's just like, why are you letting these people ruin our country? Seriously? Righto. Let us talk very quickly about the RAF base near Epping, which is going to house more migrants. The people of Epping may have won their rights to have the Bell Hotel closed down. But, wow, they're not really moving the migrants on. It's not like these migrants are being sent back to their countries of origin.
The benefit of an RAF base, in theory, should you choose to use it this way, is it is a secure facility.
Yeah.
But we don't secure these facilities.
Right. Well,
it would appear.
They should be almost like detention centres where here's your hut that you live in, here's your bowl of gruel. Yes, we'll give you shelter. Yes, we'll make sure you're fed. That's where it ends. And actually, you can't leave the site. And then people will be like, well, that doesn't look fun. I ain't going to pay a load of money to come over on a boat.
It would go towards the deterrent effect.
Yeah.
That everybody is crying out. The point at which the French are crying out for us to have better deterrence is the point at which we really have to start paying some attention to what deterrents we're using.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a good idea? Righto, let's take a short break now, shall we? But don't go anywhere, because Lauren and I are back just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This.
Hello there, welcome back to the show. Now, I've just spent my advert break trying to use the lens on Google Translate to translate whatever this is. It's like some sort of geezer who's put a TikTok video up. He's a migrant who's come into the country, and there he is sitting looking kind of angry. And it's got loads of little ninja emojis. And I was trying to figure out what it says using the camera on Google Lens. And that definitely says Al-Qaeda, that one. That's pleasant, isn't it? It says, I'm in a mood. Oh, that one says I'm a doctor. I don't understand.
I think that I don't.
But definitely
I don't entirely
that one
trust
says Al-Qaeda, which I'm like, well, that's not reassuring, is it?
I don't entirely trust Google Translate.
I don't, because that word changed from I'm a doctor to Al-Qaeda to I'm in a mood to nose.
Yeah.
I don't know. But certainly, I have a feeling if you look at this little emoji that he isn't a fan of Japanese ninja movies. I'm pretty sure that this little character here, with his bandana, his face mask and his weapon, probably represents a terrorist. And I think he's suggesting that he is one. So, yay, welcome to Britain. welcome to Britain. We hope you're having a wonderful time. Let's do some messages before we move on to one of your favourite topics, Gaza. Can't wait for that, can you? Hi, Alex. Top show. Seriously, an elite police unit to monitor media posts. I'll have to watch what I messaged to your show. I could have a knock at my door. Like, I don't think so, Andy. You're going to be all right. This Cape Canaveral's safe because you like talk before you text. I'm the one who's going to get my collar felt. It's true, isn't it? You know, they came after good old Alison Pearson. I wait for my day where they're going to come and knock on my door and be like, you said bad things about the migrants, didn't you? And I'll be like, yes, I did. I did. I didn't want them breaking into the country because I don't really know who they are. This one's got, you know, a TikTok account that says Al-Qaeda. That concerns me a little bit. You Islamophobe! Get down the slammer!
Well, and of course, there's a new definition of Islamophobia that's rapidly coming down the tracks.
Yeah, what is it going
to
be? Because I'm kind of scared of Islam.
So there is a consultation that's been going on at the moment about the concept of a new definition of Islamophobia, which would, I think, filter into the legal system. And Nick Timothy, the MP for West Suffolk, has been very vocal in being against the process that's gone into this, because it's been quite secretive, it's been quite closed door, and there's a lot of concern that we will create blasphemy laws by the back door in this country.
What is it going to look like? Because here's the thing,
I think it's pretty unclear at this point.
A phobia is an irrational fear, right? You know, oh, arachnophobia, that spider like lurking in the corner of the room might come and kill me. We're not in Australia. It probably won't. Although I kind of feel that way about spiders, if I'm honest. I don't care for them much.
No. I take the flamethrower to the house approach.
Oh, see, I once had a spider so big in the corner of my room, I actually thought of just moving house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, you have it, mate. Like, it's yours. Anything you want.
In Zimbabwe, I had a baboon spider in the garden at one point. And I was like, no, we're going away for the weekend.
What is a baboon spider?
It's massive.
How big?
Like big.
Like, are we talking sort of dinner plate or?
No, getting up there. And Zimbabwe spiders are really interesting because the ones that are flat to the wall in your house all the time, that scare you when you move down there, are absolutely fine and just eat the mosquitoes. They're massive, but they're absolutely fine.
I tell you what is harrowing.
It's the big, hairy rain spiders that end up in your sink and the baboon spiders in your back garden. They're the terrifying ones.
I mean, because I've spent a lot of time living in the developing world, and nothing is scarier than a flying cockroach.
Yeah.
Like, there's one thing when they poke their little antennas. You know, you go to the loo at night and you see these little antennas coming out of that sort of overflow bit in your sink. Feeling around. It's another thing when this cockroach the size of an apple can somehow, it's got sort of aeronautical abilities. And you're like, how do you manage to fly?
It's like when the raccoons in Toronto evolved and were able to open the locked green bins in Toronto.
Yeah.
They've evolved to really scare you.
I mean, maybe it's a good thing that humanity is probably going to wipe itself out in the next 100,000 years, because Lord knows what the animals are going to change into.
Maybe there's some much higher. Maybe there's some much higher being up there that views us as the equivalent of the spider in the corner of the room, and that's why the flamethrower comes out once every 10,000 years.
Let's get metaphysical about this, because that's exactly what I believe in. I actually believe that, you know, in the same way that a bacteria living on a mite, living on an ant's leg, which in the ant is in a rainforest, and the rainforest is in Madagascar, and Madagascar is in the ocean off the coast of Africa, and Africa's
everything
on planet
irritates something slightly higher up the food chain.
Yeah,
which is why I'm so nervous about space exploration, because at some point we're going to poke around up there, we're going to poke the wrong thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, without doubt. I don't know where we are on the ladder of existence, but I don't think we're at the top of it.
No, nor do I.
Where are we going with today's show? Who knows? Dear Alex and Lauren, once these boatloads of criminals and potential terrorists embark upon their voyage of invasion, I give not a jot for their safety from there on in, says Nick Moore in Leicester. Well, it's a bit like if kids play on railway lines. It's just not a good idea. If you're an idiot and then you get whacked by a train, well, you're an idiot, aren't you? If you get into a boat and try and break into a country and the boat sinks, that ain't the country's fault you're trying to get to.
No.
Let's get on to your favourite subject, Gaza. Because Starmer is going over to meet Donald Trump today. Donald Trump, who's, you know, many say he's out there on his own with standing by Israel. And a lot of pressure on Sir Keir Starmer, particularly from Big Ange, to recognise the state of Palestine, as our little friend over in France, Emmanuel Macron, has done.
This is a very silly idea.
Starmer,
who are you recognising?
Credits to him.
Who are you recognising?
Yeah, right, exactly.
The Palestinian Authority, who do not control Gaza and therefore have no impact on what goes on in there? Or are you recognising a terrorist organisation that are running the Gaza Strip?
Right. It's so crazy. I mean, Starmer's approach, or credit to him, is probably the right approach, which is we will do that when the time is right. And my view is this. Look, if you're going to say two-state solution, which everyone bangs on about, that's all very well. Israel might buy into the idea at some point in the future there can be two states that happily coexist.
But one state has got to not be flinging rockets at the other one all day.
Yeah, guess what? By and large, a vast amount of people in Gaza wouldn't want to recognise Israel, and that's the point behind all of this.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is because they don't want Israel to exist, not the other way around.
Well, you know that my theory is that Israel's biggest PR problem is, in fact, the Iron Dome. Because if the Iron Dome didn't exist, you would have a story twice a day, every day, of a rocket has killed 10 people, a rocket has killed 15 people, because they are firing rockets into Israel left, right and centre. They're positioning these rockets on schools, on hospitals. They're pumping out health statistics from the Hamas-run medical facilities and the Hamas-riddled UN organisation UNRWA. And they are winning the PR war against Israel in a big way. But meanwhile, what they have done is consistently over 20 years behave like the kid in the back of the car going... And then the parent turns around and belts
Lauren
them.
sort of bit her bottom lip and air punched the seat in front.
Anyone with a sibling will know exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah. Anyone who's been on the top deck of a London double-decker knows what we're talking about.
Are complaining bitterly when they are found out and held to account by their neighbour who's put up with a hell of a lot from them over the course of 20 years.
It's like there's that meme that circulates, or the video that circulates all the time on social media, if there's one cat sitting there sort of like hunched down with squinted eyes while the other cat's just buffing it all the time with his pipe. Whack, 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 whack. And then all of a sudden the other cat goes,
turns around and
gets angry. And this is, you're right. Someone else said to me the other day, the biggest problem Israel's got in some respects is the Iron Dome, because it's so blimmin' good at defending itself that everyone just thinks Israel isn't getting attacked and Israel's
Meanwhile,
the aggressor.
of course, I am incredibly sympathetic that there are children at risk within the Gaza Strip, that there are people who are starving, and it is not their fault because they never had the money to leave to begin with. But you know what? Hamas are starving their own people.
So what do you make of two things that the UK government has said it is going to do? One is use the RAF to airdrop aid.
Oh, hilariously, the Observer says that UNRWA don't want them to do that.
Of course UNRWA do, because UNRWA are basically Hamas. UNRWA are
complaining about aid drops, and they say that they are ineffectual. And I'm arguing that they're slightly more effectual than nothing.
They don't want to work with the Israelis to deliver aid. They'll only work with Hamas to deliver that aid. And we know what is going on. Hamas, and I didn't realise there were so many other clans who are sort of equally as bloodthirsty and grim, but don't like Hamas. And they're sort of having gun battles with one another to try and get to the aid to control it. Hamas want to starve the population because the more we see like bulging-eyed kids with visible ribs, the more it's like we must recognise the state of Palestine and Israel's evil.
Meanwhile, Hamas would want the state of Palestine that's being recognised to be their state of Palestine, not the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. So who are you recognising?
It's so mad. It's so mad. So what do we think about the RAF airdropping aid? I mean, I'm like, look, just chuck some food at the situation, but it is going to be nicked by the gangs.
We did a big chunk of it over the course of the last year, I think, and I'm in favour of aid drops. I think that it's a decent thing to do. It doesn't rely upon the Israelis either distributing it or opening the border crossings, which they are refusing to do. It doesn't involve us in their domestic decision-making over border crossings. They can do what they want with those. We're going to drop directly into Gaza.
But how long would it be when we're flying a sort of, A800, whatever they're called, over Gaza?
The problem you've got is that they are not particularly...
And then some sort of surface-to-air missile comes from a Houthi, takes it down, and Israel gets blamed.
They're not particularly well targeted. They fall on the wrong stuff. They're not distributed, guaranteed by an international agency. It can therefore be taken by Hamas and distributed by Hamas, which is, is my understanding is what's going on with a lot of the aid that's going in there. Israel and the United States, it should be said, through this new aid mechanism that they've set up to deliver food aid, are saying that 2.1 million meals are being delivered daily in Gaza, which is enough for 1 meal per day for every person in Gaza. Now, if those meals are not getting to the general population, there has to be a consideration that that is no longer the mechanism to be using, or that the meals are going somewhere else. And if they're going somewhere else, I'd argue they're going to the people controlling the Gaza Strip, and that's Hamas.
Yeah. No, exactly. We all know that. And like I said, how long, when we've got a, cargo plane dropping baked beans down on Gaza, it's some sort of surface-to-air missile launched from Yemen, takes it out, and it's like, oh, well, Israel must have shot down the aid plane. You can almost see it happening. Right, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we're going to lighten the tone a bit and talk about Kate Bush Day, which apparently took place in Folkestone. That's after this.
A bit like a parking fine, you mean? If you
Yeah,
pay...
if you pay it early, you it's a reduced amount.
Right.
But I feel very strongly about this, especially with, as you've mentioned, what's going on with the big companies. There's always been a two-tier system in government. Against the small businesses are, to me, the lifeblood of the economy. It's where it all starts. Small businesses thrive, and they're just killing us. They're absolutely killing us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the show. We're still playing with Google Lens, by the way. I'm still trying to find out what this says in this Arabic text, and it just keeps changing every 5 seconds. 1 minute it was saying that the little skull meant eyebrow, then it said we're the nails of the earth, and then it said it meant explode. Either way, most of the things that Google Lens is throwing up as possible translation of this Arabic text don't sound very cuddly. But talking about cuddly, there's a lovely event that's been going on down in Folkestone. Should we have a little look? Should we have a watch of what's been going on?
Do sort of a flash mob of Wuthering Heights, which I think is a uniquely British form of lunacy, and I think I think it's great. That was actually the video from last year's, but the Observer has the pictures from.
So a load of women put on red dresses
of any
and
kind,
think they're Kate Bush and wave their arms around while singing Kate Bush en masse.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, if I was a migrant coming on a dinghy over from Calais, I'd see that looming on the horizon. I'd be like, quick, paddle backwards, paddle backwards.
Dear Yvette Cooper, this is your deterrent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unfortunately, all of those people probably have a crush on Ed Davey. That's my concern with them.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
you never know.
I'm right.
I'm a massive, I'm a massive Kate Bush fan, and I don't have a crush on Ed Davey.
Well, no, because that's weird.
Yeah.
But I still reckon a lot of those women would.
Well, I think that's fairly pejorative. They might all fancy David Cameron still. You never know.
Right. They're definitely not in love with Farage, I don't think.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
I think the Venn diagram of Remainery and Brexitism, I think Kate Bush probably is more in the Remainer circle.
I don't know that that's true. I think, you can't, from musical taste, it's actually quite hard to...
Do you not think? No. I kind of think that, because I often think I can play Brexiteer or not Brexiteer.
No, because I think, I think a lot of the guys who like heavy metal would really disagree, for example, with the view that the rest of the world takes of what they look like or how they dress in relation to heavy metal.
Heavy metal people are angry, sad, upset about things. Therefore, they're left-wing.
Not necessarily. A lot of heavy metal people are right-wing. See, you can't make pejorative statements about musical taste.
Well, I can, and I will.
Some people just like what they like, and others will put a red dress on and possibly do fancy Ed Davey, but I'm not going to cast aspersions on 1,000 women fancying Ed Davey, because I think it's highly statistically unlikely.
I wish it was. Let's talk now about...
How did Ed Davey become the current bête noire of people you can fancy?
Do you know, Ed Davey loves waterborne vessels so much, I wouldn't be surprised to see, party conference, him arriving in a dinghy over the channel.
To be fair, I might pay to watch that.
It's a very clever way, actually, to not answer a single question.
Yes.
Remember that time you were Postal Services Minister during the whole Horizon scandal? Oh, no, we can't get the microphone to him. He's on a body of water again.
It's genius. It's the only way you could really have a coalition minister leading a party these days.
Does anybody know what a Lib Dem policy was in the last election, or did we just see Ed Davey on bodies of water?
They had something about carers, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And then 72 seats in Parliament as a result.
Having said that, I was a special advisor in the coalition, and I therefore spend a lot of time avoiding Liberal Democrats.
Yeah, that's probably a good move.
It's like a trauma response.
Yeah. Are you over it now?
No, I see someone regularly. And,
right. Is it like the ghost of Vince Cable?
There's medication available.
Let's talk about Britain's most controversial film of the year. Apparently, is Mary Poppins? Now, this is sort of riddled, this article is riddled with quotes from David Austin, who's a friend of mine.
Who is David Austin?
I know David. He's in charge of the, I forget what the acronym is, the British Board of whatever.
BBFC,
British Board of Film. Basically, when you go to the cinema, when you go to the cinema and that sort of black screen comes up and it has like PG, it has the rating, it always has that sort of funny buzz, the white noise sound and the name of
Natasha Kaplinsky on there as well.
Yes, you get her signature, and then the other one is David Austin's signature. And I was like, I know that man, I know him. But anyway, apparently, Mary Poppins got 56 complaints out of 224 complaints last year. And that's compared to all these other programmes that has, like, you know, that famous bath scene in Saltburn. It's 2 minutes to 7 in the morning. I'm not going to describe it.
I have to tell you that there is a local cinema club in the village that I'm from in Gloucestershire. And they, without, I think, knowing too much about it, just knowing it was the hit film of the summer.
Oh, they played it? Or
No, they advertised that Saltburn was going to be the film that they were going to play.
For the Women's Institute.
For the sort of the cinema club.
The crochet knitting women.
Exactly. And I have a friend who writes features for the Sunday Times, and I called her and I said, would you like to come as an observer? Because I think that this will be box office worthy on its own. There aren't enough defibrillators in the entire county for what's going to happen in this cinema show.
Amazing.
And they ended up pulling it and not broadcasting it to the good burgers of our villagers.
But anyway, so Mary Poppins is controversial because it's got some word in that I didn't even know the meaning of. Probably can't say it because there's probably something wrong according to Ofcom.
It's not a very nice word that relates to South Africa about 100 years or so ago.
It's that man who thinks his house is a boat, yelling it through his megaphone with the weather forecast.
And this is it's sort of the same thing that we've had about the dog in Dam Busters, where at some point the best thing to do is probably just to very discreetly record over the individual word. Yeah, that dog.
Yeah, I mean, if only John Turode had read the memo, his life wouldn't be so bad.
Exactly, but I think, you know, we dealt with that one by, I think, surreptitiously recording over the word in what's put out. Hardly anybody ever notices. And the same, I think, could be done with this without particular grievance being issued. But I think it's amazing that there's only 224 complaints a year.
Well,
this is a nation that adores complaining.
On that, don't complain about us. We're not going anywhere. We're back.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People schmiggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and good morning. 7 o'clock on a Sunday. Congratulations if you've just tuned in. What a discerning choice you have made. If you've been here since 6 a.m, I love you. I really do. I think that is such a sign of true commitment. It makes me feel very special indeed. I want to know why you're up at 6 a.m. Are you being paid for it like I am? If not, you're weird. But no, you're not. You set your alarm just to listen to us, haven't you? Because it's the only way you get therapy in this day and age, because you ain't going to be getting a psychologist on the NHS anytime soon, are you? But well done if you are part of this programme, and if you've only just tuned in and want to go back and look at the first hour of Lauren and I. What have we been talking about? We've talked about dancing like Kate Bush, and whether if you listen to Kate Bush you fancy a Davy.
We've talked a lot about
debate.
the West Country.
The West Country, Ducklington.
How great Gloucestershire is, how bad men from Salisbury are.
Correct.
Yeah.
And where the human race might be on the ladder of existence.
Yeah, very true, yeah.
Yeah, it's very Sunday-like,
It's been a broad spectrum approach to
it really
news gathering.
has.
Yeah.
And if you've missed all of that and you want to know what Ducklington's like, where you are on the
Give it a Google, it's
ladder
great.
you can go on YouTube and watch back from the beginning or on the Talk app. Because we live in the modern world now.
Absolutely.
So everything is on demand, at your fingertips. We've also had that lovely video of the migrant with the Turkish teeth and the neck tattoo.
Yeah.
Looking at that bird on the beach.
An incredible set of Nashes going on there.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually thinking next time I'm going to get my teeth done, I'm going to fly over to Iraq.
Or Turkey.
Or Turkey, yeah. I mean, the dental care over there looks great. Anyway, but yeah, there you go. You can go back to the beginning and watch the lot of it. Let's do some messages, and then Lauren and I are going to guide you through the Sunday papers. I've been pulling out all the segments because I tell you what, if I try and lift this pack up together with all the sort of glossy supplements, it's like going to the gym. Bye-bye bingo wings. Look at this. Woohoo! Those flabby arms are disappearing. Oh, to be a postal man on a Sunday. They don't need to pay 20 quid a month for some sort of...
Well, they
20 quid a month would be a great gym membership, wouldn't it? Imagine that. Yeah, they don't,
They don't really deliver the papers anymore.
No. Do you get papers delivered?
So
Physical
when I
format?
was previously in London, I used to, but they don't deliver the papers I read on Sundays.
What about Milkmen? Are they
that I'm
still
not,
out there?
Yes, in Gloucestershire. There's a couple of great
That's
companies.
what I'm going to do. I'm in the process of moving right now, people. When I come off air, I've got to go home and fill boxes with my life because I'm getting out of London because I want to stay sane. In fact, it's too late for that, but I want to preserve what sanity I have.
So you've decided to move to a town that has the most hilariously poorly run roundabouts in the country.
I didn't know about the roundabouts.
I'll send you the Facebook group link because it's funny.
I saw a GL postcode in Cotswold Stone, and I thought to myself, that's me.
Yeah,
I'm
alas, the Lib Dems run roads in Gloucestershire now.
Oh yeah, it is Lib Demi, isn't it?
It is.
Gosh, the Kate Bush lot are going to come and start prancing around in my front garden,
They won
aren't
the election in May.
I know. That is what really upsets me about where we come from. I'm like, it's the best county on earth.
Not where I come from, because our Tory held on. We worked really, really, really hard.
Where are you specifically?
Fairford and Lechlade division.
Lechlade's lovely, isn't it?
It is. It's
pub
nice.
for sale in Lechlade. My other half was thinking of buying it.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, get that pub. We'll turn it into a proper cider pub.
It's within the division's like a triangle, and it's a bit too far away for me to go to the pubs.
Lechlade is really cool. It's kind of like it's got. Well, you get
really fantastic fishmongers in Lechlade.
Oh, is there?
New Wave fishmongers in Lechlade is amazing.
What I like
Good
about Lechlade, what I like about the West Country, Oxfordshire, no, it's all Farrow and Ball and Jeeps
Soho
and
Farmer.
Ranger. Yeah, it's all that rubbish. I don't like that.
There's no real mud in West Oxfordshire.
No. I heard actually that people have a service where they spray with a hose pipe mud up the side of your Land Rover before you go back to London, so it looks like you're doing proper country living.
I don't believe that.
I would. I bet that does exist.
In West Oxfordshire.
In West Oxfordshire.
Yes.
Not in Ducklington, though.
No.
Because that's the centre of the universe. We love Ducklington.
Ducklington is fantastic.
No,
Huge fans here.
They spray duck poo all over your car instead to prove that you've been there. But no, what I love about the West Country, and it begins in Gloucestershire and then sort of moves around to, I mean, foresty places especially have this, but the witchiness You cannot go to anywhere in Gloucestershire, like some sort of shop with selling crystals. There's a sort of Venn diagram.
I don't know. I think our bit avoided that.
In Gloucestershire.
Our bit avoided
it's
that.
It's like cider, crystals, crops.
No, our bit avoided the crystals. I haven't seen one of those.
Oh, I don't do the crystals, but I like the fact that they're there.
No, our village shop does honey and damson jam and Cotswold gin.
Oh, that's nice.
Cotswold gin's very good.
Cotswold cider ain't bad. It's not as good as your gnarly sort of proper press, filtered through the farmer's sock.
So our village had a cider festival, and there was something called a porn star cider, which had passion fruit in it.
A
lot of us very, very nearly ended up upside down in a hedge on the way home after 2 pints of that.
Good. That is karma, because anyone who's putting other fruits into cider than an apple needs to be put in the stocks and pelted with apples.
Perry as well.
Perry's fine, because that's very Gloucestershire. Perry's like, how we do our things.
Yeah.
And did you know, here's a fun fact for you, Perry contains sorbitol and cider doesn't. So if ever you've eaten too much meat and not enough fibre, hit up the Perry and you'll vacuate your system.
I'm not sure I needed to know that on a Sunday morning.
You might one day. You don't have to go and get some Movocol from the pharmacist. You can just go get a pint of Perry.
I really don't think that I needed to know that. This. But let's go back to the front pages, because I want to talk about
because who knows where
the global crisis sending Gen Z to church.
I love
on
this.
The Express.
Let's talk about, because we were just discussing during the break about this headline. So my church, you can't even get in anymore. They're using all the overflow centres, the cafe, the cellar, the crypt, everything. It's queuing like getting into a nightclub in the 90s. And we found out, because I thought you'd go to one of those fancy churches where they speak in Latin, not the ones with the rock groups. But no.
I go to both.
We go to the same church in London.
No, we don't go to the same church. We go to the same family of churches.
Which one is yours?
St Peter's in Vauxhall.
Oh, is that an HTB plant?
It is an HTB plant, and the vicar is someone who was a friend of mine when we were growing up.
That's cool.
That's why I'm so happy to go there.
Oh, and it's a happy church.
It is, but they've got what they've done is, because it's quite a traditional sort of area church-wise, is they've got a very trad service on a Sunday morning and a more evangelical service on a Sunday evening.
See, I go to the sort of, because I could go. They've got quite a few.
Oh, you go to the one at Brompton?
Now. I go to the Brompton one. Yeah.
Do you know what we used to call that?
What?
Hunt the Bride. Because everyone ended up getting married within HTB.
It is supposed to be the best dating place on earth. Go into HTB, you can pick up a Christian and be like, well, hey,
exactly,
let's have
married
in
8 months.
Yeah.
But this is from the Bible Society's YouGov polling, which indicates that Gen Z are going back to church in a big way, which I think completely tracks with how Gen Z are also, behaving online with seeking for answers that are not being provided by government, by politics, so they're seeking for a higher power.
But this happens if you actually take a step back and culturally look at the cycles that have taken place in the United Kingdom. This is just always what happens. The one generation basically disavows itself of the previous generation's ideologies.
I think it happens.
That was mad. Let's do it differently.
I think it happens a lot actually when the Church of England in particular, and I don't know about the Catholic Church, but when the Church of England in particular decides to go through a wave of getting rid of a whole load of the trad stuff and saying, oh well, you're not going to understand the higher end of eulogy, or and they start getting, and they pivot to sort of concrete flat top buildings rather than old churches. And I think a lot, so from when I read the polling a couple months ago, it seems that actually that's not true, that a lot of people are going back to more trad services within the church. And I think that the Church of England has too often disparaged people who pick the trad end.
But what I quite like about our church, our London church, is it might have all the music and the singing and the joy, but actually it's more conservative when it comes to the social values. It's not there waving trans flags at you. It ain't doing that.
And actually,
that is for
I think a lot of the churches where they have gone down that sort of that campaigning route are the ones who have struggled to fill their pews.
There's a brilliant church in Earls Court that every now and then I call into. There is. It's called St Philip's Church. Oh, yeah. And the best thing about St Philip's Church is the fact that it's got a cat.
It's got a cat?
Yeah. Oh. It's open 24/7. One of the only churches in London that you can just walk into. It's always unlocked, which is why when I'm sort of knocking about Kensington High Street, I go like, I'm just going to go see the cat. He's called Pushkin.
Right.
And he's the church cat. He used to be a farm cat. He's quite violent. He's a black and white, very angry cat.
Excellent. Church is the best place for him then.
So he's there to mouse. Oh. And it's lovely because you walk in like, where is he? Where's Pushkin? And you sort of look around.
And you see him swinging from the chandeliers with his claws out.
Yeah. You see him sitting on a chair, and I always go to him, hi, Persian. I go sit next to him, and I sort of, my hand hovers over his head to stroke him. Like, nah, I'm not going to risk it. But I love him. He's on Twitter, actually.
Of course he is.
SPECR _cat. St Philip's Earls Court Road.
Yeah.
_cat. So you can follow him on Twitter. He's got his own Twitter account. He's amazing. He's got his own calendar. I've got his merch. I've got all of his merch, Pushkin. But I love that cat.
Actually, there was a fantastic... The Spectator did a really great event at St Bartholomew's, which is a very smells and bells high church, but probably less small C conservative than HTB is.
Right.
In some of the in the way that it approaches religion. They did a fantastic cross-Catholic Church of England event about the resurgence in people seeking spirituality, and I think that it's a very interesting thing to pay attention to. I do think that some of these numbers are reflective of immigration.
Yes.
And people coming to this country who are bigger believers and who are coming from
certainly
from Africa.
The keystone at the moment of Christianity, the Commonwealth countries.
So that is, and it's important to consider that some of this is coming from immigration, but quite a lot of it is coming from young people seeking for something.
I love this. This makes me very, very happy indeed. And if you're thinking about going to church this Sunday, go on, God's waiting. Right, let's do some more front pages here. Where are we going next?
Where should we go next?
That one? What's in your mix?
Lions, Telegraph.
Oh, here we go.
The Lions beating the Australians.
Oh, I watched it yesterday, and I sort of while I was packing, I tuned in at the first bit. I go, there you go. Of course, the Aussies are winning. Then all of a sudden, it's like, no, we are. We've done it!
And there was a fantastic picture of two guys in the audience holding up a sign saying, our wives think we're at the Coldplay concert.
That's amazing. That's really funny. I love that. But also, this one is what we spoke about earlier, the police unit to monitor anger over migrants. This is the story that the Home Office are going to be creating an elite team of coppers to monitor social media for anti-migrant
this is so silly because they don't need the police to do this. They just need YouGov to poll people on how they feel about the Labour government's Home Office policies. They'll get the same answer.
That ain't going to keep us in our houses, though. No, we need the fuzz to come over and feel our collars to stop us going out and making a noise. Where are we next?
In the Observer, there is a story that nobody is going to cover unless we do.
Okay, all right.
And I like stories like that because it's very interesting.
Oh, you did show this one to me earlier, the boat.
There is a boat stranded off the coast of Mozambique that is allegedly owned under British flag ownership. But the named ultimate beneficial owner of 75% of that company is denying that he's the owner and saying he's just the manager of the company. This is a boat that has been stranded off there for 10 months. None of the people on the boat are visa qualified to land in Mozambique, so they've been stranded on there that whole time. Yeah. It's a natural gas vessel, and this is apparently abandoned boats. It's apparently happening all over the place, and because the British ensign family is the largest flag-carrying family in the world, this is a uniquely British problem. But this...
So, break this down. So
this would appear to be a very big modern slavery issue. If you're locking people on a boat, refusing to give them food and water when they are your employees, you are creating a modern slavery issue. Is this not what we pass modern slavery legislation in the United Kingdom about?
This story just baffles me.
It
so you've
boggles
got loads
me.
of people on a boat carrying
They haven't been paid.
Natural gas,
they haven't been paid.
But they've run out of fuel themselves, so they can't go anywhere.
They're not allowed to dock where they were supposed to dock.
Or get food.
I think they're now
stuck on the boat.
I think they're now also uninsured because the insurance companies yanked their insurance, which probably means they can't move anyway. They haven't. The people on the boat have not been paid. They don't have any food or water, which has to be delivered by their ownership company, who are basically ignoring their emails. And because they're travelling under a UK registered shipping company, technically, they are a British problem.
It's a really weird story.
It's such a strange story. It's on page 23, the beginning of the World section of The Observer today. And it's one of those stories. This story was supported by the Pulitzer Center's Ocean Reporting Network, which I think is terribly important. It's by a woman called Katie McKay, I think her name is. And this is one of the wildest stories I've read in the sort of the random story section.
I just don't understand why the people owning this boat with all the liquefied natural gas, considering how in demand that stuff is, don't want to go and get that to where it was supposed to be.
Well, it's also the second gas boat. It's the second gas boat of theirs in a year to have this done with it.
Very weird.
Yeah,
very weird.
Well, the last one apparently was abandoned. The last one was abandoned off the coast of Mogadishu. I think Mozambique, the coast of
boat off the coast of
the
Mogadishu,
coast of Mozambique
like,
would be
filled
better
with
than
gas.
the coast of Mogadishu, not by much, but would be better than the coast of Mogadishu.
To be honest, if that boat is lurking around off the coast of Mogadishu, I'm sure some pirates have gone to ransack it already.
Well, there are hardly any pirates in the Gulf of Aden anymore because the EU anti-piracy mechanism was so successful. Most piracy across Africa is Boko Haram-linked piracy on the west coast,
right,
not on the east coast of the African continent.
Oh. Who knew the EU did something good?
No, the Somali piracy issue was basically a purely mercantile issue. It was not linked to terrorism. It was mostly just economic jobs.
Money.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, because the EU nicked all their fish.
Whereas in the west of Africa, it is Boko Haram linked.
Right, front of the Daily Mail, Ghislaine quizzed about Andrew by top Trump lawyer. I'm trying to keep tabs.
All that News UK Legal will allow us to say about this.
Like the bye, that's it done. No, it's a very. I mean, I'm trying to follow all this Epstein file stuff. I mean, I had read the other day that now Elon Musk and his brother are sort of potentially named in these files, and that you've got the deputy head of the FBI saying, I've learned things I never wish I'd learned.
Files, or is it because there's an address book as well?
I don't know what's in there. That's the point. Nobody knows what's in there because we're not being shown what's in there.
Yeah.
We were told we were going to get it, or the MAGA movement were told by Trump. Now they're not. So now you've got a Department of Justice going and having a chit-chat with
In the first Trump administration,
Ghislaine
didn't
Maxwell.
he say that he would release the Kennedy files and then didn't release the Kennedy files?
Yeah, stop saying you're going to release files and not releasing files.
To be fair to Donald Trump for a moment, he has got the instinct of, I think, like 70% of the people who have become president to go on, what are the big 5 secrets? Come on, I want to know. I did all this work to become president, and now I really want to know, are there aliens?
Yeah, but that'd be the first thing I would do.
Who killed Kennedy?
Yes, there are. I don't know. The CIA.
If I was president, that's exactly what I'd want to know.
The first thing I'd be like, show me the aliens.
But if I was a president that was trying to get my voters to believe that there was a deep state conspiracy keeping things from them, I would also want my supporters to know that until I get into government and presumably find out it's far less exciting than everybody thought it was, and then I don't release them because of the 2 people who would sue the government.
Yeah, that's what I had heard. Actually, those files are probably pretty dull.
Yeah.
But see, this is why I can tell you from the West Country, because you would go for those aliens first. You're like, gotta find those orbs.
Absolutely.
I told you, the Venn diagram of witchiness. Right, the West Country, the Venn diagram of farming and witchiness. Farming and weird. I like weird.
Maybe it's the water system.
Right, we've got to quickly finish the papers now. Apparently, Greg Wallace is never going to watch MasterChef again. Well,
I don't think anyone on MasterChef is ever going to watch Greg Wallace again, so that feeling's probably mutual.
We've done that one. We've done the Times, haven't we? Which is Trump and Starmer are going to have a chat about Gaza. There we are. The Mirror, stuff about Martine McCutcheon. And the Lionesses who are playing today. We're going to be talking about that a bit later.
Which means that you can all go to the pub for longer, apparently.
Oh, is that right? We're having extended pub opening hours?
Apparently.
Well, there you go, every cloud.
I know nothing about football. Male, female, I know nothing about it. It's not something I ever got into.
Again, it's because you're from the West Country. The ball is the wrong shape.
Yeah, we watch rugby,
Right.
we watch cricket.
Exactly. I always love The Star. The Star, I think, is a national treasure of a newspaper. It's just full of magical headlines and the weird stuff you just don't get anywhere else.
Sunday People too.
Private Eye has lost its mojo in my...
I like the Sunday Sport. I'm sorry not to see the Sunday Sport in this pile because they're my favourite account on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't follow them.
They're completely barking. I love them.
Oh. Well, I'm going to make sure I go and follow them during the advert break. Let's do some of your messages. And if you want to send your thoughts and feelings in, this is the number to call, 03444991000, if you want to have a chit-chat. You can also use that number to send me a WhatsApp message or leave me a voice note on WhatsApp. 8722 is the number to send a text message. Write the word talk before you send your text. Text responsibly. Make sure it gets into our computer systems here and doesn't end up frightening somebody in the Virgin Radio studios where they're expecting you to sort of comment on the latest frock worn by Taylor Swift, not on migrants on boats. Let's do some of your messages before we hit up the break. Dan from Kent. Morning, Alex. Starmer bangs on about building the foundations while I say kill the virus first of neoliberalism who are feeding immigration lawyers. Then we can start fixing Britain. That isn't going to be done by this government. Looking forward to a good dose of common sense and roll on the next election.
I don't think it's neoliberalism feeding lawyers. I think it's the ECHR.
Is that no? It's not. I mean, it's the yes, kind of like weirdly the opposite of liberalism, isn't it? Morning, Alex. Your guest That is you. Mentioned an ID system for health. The NHS staff will say they are not border control or police and won't enforce anything. Dean from Dagenham. That's true. Often doctors go, we don't want to check people's records.
So what?
We're there just to treat
Put a
people."
scanner in.
Yeah. Morning, ladies. Love watching you. Please run for PM. This country needs you. I'm not sure which lady. Oh, I don't consider myself a lady. I'm just a creature.
Job share.
So that must be you.
Let's do it together.
Yay! The West Country Witches. Good morning, Alex. It's Gary from Canterbury. It's always good when I wake up on a Sunday and find you in the chair. What type of chair? That's what I want to know. That's the latest thing that the elite police force are going to do. They're going to. You said bad things about Migrant.
That was the Rowan Atkinson sketch with the short, sharp shock. That they were going to. This is the Rowan Atkinson at Conservative Party conference sketch from about 40 years ago, where he says, we're going to deal with youth crime with a short, sharp shock approach, and the electric chairs will be introduced next week.
Hey! Anyway, Gary goes on to say, seriously, what was the Home Secretary smoking yesterday, saying that only 80 migrants are allowed per boat? Next thing we'll be told, if we buy a rubber dinghy to support the migrant settlement, slogan being buy a dinghy and support your local migrant. I mean, yeah.
But only 80 to go, because 100 is not allowed.
Yeah, strap yourselves in, folks. Health and safety on those vessels, please, as you break into the country. OK, we're going to go to an advert break now, but don't go anywhere, because we're back on the other side. We're going to speak to some of you.
According to the Keir Starmer world, of course, that the people who are bussed in from all over the country by the Socialist Worker Party with their silly little signs, they are the good people in their heads because they love diversity and they love the fact that more and more immigrants come in the country and they are nice people in their worldview, and this needs to stop. The police need to be impartial. We need to get back to British policing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. We have some fun, don't we? I think it makes you go a bit wild when your alarm is so early on a Sunday morning.
No, it's because I've had 3 coffees. I am jazzed.
Have you had one? You're jazzed?
Yeah, massively.
I love that word, jazzed. Right, here we go. Going to do some messages for calls. Morning, girls. Well, Alex, it took you 1 hour and 7 minutes to mention cider. That must be a record.
It's pretty restrained for us,
I think
actually.
that's very restrained.
Yeah. And then we mentioned cider and porn stars in the same sentence, so...
And also,
being upside down the head.
Laxatives. Good morning, Alex. I absolutely love Kate Bush. I voted for Reform, and my mum and auntie both voted for Reform, and love a bit of Kate Bush too. There you go.
But does she fancy Ed Davey even if she didn't vote for him?
Do you fancy Ed Davey? That's what I need to know.
This is the Venn diagram. It's not whether or not you voted for Ed Davey, it's whether or not you fancied Ed Davey.
Exactly. I need to know. Kelly, I mean, seriously, do you look a little bit fancy him? Morning, ladies, says Cliff in Berkshire. Are you sure that Kate Bush event was in England? Usually when more than 3 people gather, there's an army of high-vis clad muppets overseeing them.
They didn't need them, they were in red.
That's true, they were high-vis.
Also, this guy's from Berkshire. You know, this is the east of the country, Folkestone. Very, very different part of England to west, so... inexplicable to the rest
funny
of us.
Cider in those parts, Kentish
really
cider, not proper.
Very odd.
I voted out and I love Kate Bush too, says John in Liverpool.
See, you shouldn't be so pejorative to what everybody likes as music.
Get what Tim says. Oh, Alex, Kate Bush Day weird? You chase cheese down a hill.
Well, I don't, but I do observe.
Personally. I do like it. Like I said, I only like sports when there's a severe risk of death or maiming.
Like bog snorkeling in...
bog snorkeling, cheese
where do they do the bog
snorkeling in Formula 1? You know, if it's not gladiatorial, why bother?
Exactly.
You know, there's nothing more gladiatorial than basically going down a vertical incline after a single
broken
bluster.
legs at the end of the sports that I watch.
Right, exactly. If you're not being carted off by the St John's ambulance, you haven't tried hard enough.
Exactly.
Morning, Alex and Lauren. Fantastic show. However, it's early on a Sunday morning and I'm sat bolt upright in bed spitting feathers. My health watch is already telling me to calm down, says Nick in Tring. Now, Nick in Tring says he's spitting feathers. I want to know what Nick in Tring's been up to because, wait for this, Emily in Wiltshire. Don't judge her, she's not a man. Emily in Wiltshire points out, and this is what big questions for you to answer, Nick in Tring, with your feather spitting. Years ago when I was naive, I used to have many heated arguments with my dad about the dangers of mass immigration. I'd laugh when he said some migrants steal swans and ducks from our ponds to eat. Yeah, Nick.
I mean, those the feathers he's spitting?
This is what I want to know. There's been this video circulating on social media of a migrant family of 2 Canada geese under them getting into an elevator, just like, and the guy's it's like this sort of young, I think you can tell by the voice, he's this sort of young black Londoner. And he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to eat that? That's just cruel. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, whatever you do in Britain, don't come after our ducks and our geese.
But the Canadian geese are an invasive species. Is this not a decent solution?
Roast them in your oven. That's gross.
So at the school I went to, someone gifted us peacocks. And I found out many years later that one of these peacocks, which we had thought had just done a bunk as soon as it was let out of its sort of habitation
it
cave.
disguised itself as a normal bird.
No, it turns out that one of the guys from the Cirencester Ag Coal, they've been going through an only eat what you kill phase, and they plugged the peacock and eaten it and said it didn't taste very nice.
Well, see, this is what they teach at Agricultural College in Gloucestershire.
Exactly.
Anyway, let us get on with some calls, shall we? And speak to Graham in Leeds. Good morning to you, Graham.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I think we're slightly mad, but we're doing okay. How are you?
Yeah, lovely. I've been up since 6, as we always are, watching your shows. Lovely.
Oh, well done you.
Yeah. You know, to be quite honest, I'm an 80-year-old. I've worked on 50 years working, like a lot of people, contributing. Nothing this government does surprises me. I've seen a lot of governments come and go. I couldn't be happier when this one goes, to be quite honest, like a lot of people. My issue, like everybody's, are the immigrants. What I would like to know is, at what point, when they're crossing the channel, are they illegal?
Well, the problem is they're not at all anymore, are they? Because they're considered irregular.
They technically are still illegal because it's illegal to land without permission because we have no.
No, but didn't we? Wasn't there this sort of legislation? The Conservative government said if you cross the channel in a small boat, you're never going to be able to claim asylum.
Yes.
And therefore, because it's illegal. But then now it's called irregular, just like shoplifting is probably irregular shopping.
There's a new term now, irregular.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure all the criminals will be using that term soon.
When you're departing France, the French view it to be illegal to get in one of these boats. So it's illegal when you leave. It's whether or not it's still illegal when you get there.
Yeah, it's mad. Like I said, looting. irregular shopping, no doubt. No, it's I don't get it.
My point
Yeah.
is the people bringing them in, assisting them, surely they're
aiding and abetting criminality.
In the legal act.
Yeah.
The INLR, the Border Force, the rest of it. Are they not
Well, that's
breaking
the thing.
law?
It's pretty difficult to say about someone, wow, you broke into our country when the UK Border Force have picked you up and brought you in.
I know.
Exactly.
That
But
makes
are they not breaking the law as well?
Well, they would be breaking the law if they didn't help, because we do have a humanitarian obligation.
Well, I know. It's got to stop somewhere. Unfortunately, it reminds me of a long-term record of the War of the Worlds film. The closing lines were, and still they come. And we'll be saying this for the next 100, 200 years.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's going to be, unfortunately.
Well, I don't know what the end point is. Well, let's see what happens in the future. Let's see if the government changes, but certainly it's not going to change in the next 4 years, is it, Graham? That's the problem.
Still got a while to go.
Thank you, my darling, for your call. Thank you for setting your alarm at 6 a.m. to join us.
I know.
Certificate in the post. Let's speak now to Adrian, who's in Leicestershire. Hello there, Adrian.
Hello.
What's on your mind, my darling?
Well, Alex, I've got a simple solution for all this, to be honest with you.
I love a simple solution.
It's certainly simple. We've lost the justice system. We've lost the police force. We've lost even the king and the government. So why don't we say, well, look, you're taking everything from us. Why do we all don't get together and stop paying taxes completely? The community charge,
Loads of
TV
callers
license,
keep bringing this
gas,
idea up.
electric.
Yeah.
Sorry?
A load of callers keep bringing this up. The idea, this is very British, isn't it? We don't want to go out and protest. We don't want to have an insurrection.
Yeah,
we don't like violence. We're not like the French who love going on strike. Instead, let's just all go, you're not doing the job we're paying you to do, so we ain't going to pay you anymore. So many callers phone me up and talk about this sort of national tax strike.
I think a big portion of that is not just everything that appears to be going on with the justice system and the policing system. It's that everybody paying into the system also feels that the services that they are paying for through that mechanism are not functioning on a day-to-day level for them. The health system isn't working. Dentistry isn't working.
Yeah.
Education is collapsing. It's not just about, I view the justice system and the policing system to be behaving badly.
But let's not get started on potholes
It's also,
either.
the services I'm paying for are not working.
Yeah, no, this is it. And obviously we're not going to encourage a massive tax strike, because I'll get in trouble if I did.
Yes, that's inciting insurrection in the tax
That's
system.
inciting evasion or something.
What else have we got left? They've taken everything else from us. Everything from us, and still expect us to pay.
Adrian, I'll tell you what the solution is, and the solution is that turnout for elections in this country is in the 40s.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
The answer is everybody turn out and vote for someone else.
Yes.
But can we have more years of this? We'll be all in boot camps, prison camps, communist ran.
Don't worry about that, because they won't have prisons to put us into.
Yeah,
they'll have emptied all the criminals out, so we can go to it.
The real bonus is actually that the government couldn't run a bath.
Yeah.
So the idea that they could actually sort of implement any of that is for the birds, which is very comforting.
For the birds that are soon to be roasted on a spit, that Nick in Tring will have the feathers in his mouth after consuming. Sorry, Nick in Tring. I'm sure that when you said you're spitting feathers, you did not mean.
I'm sure it was your own personal budgerigar rather than.
Oh, Lauren, it's been great fun having you here. And Adrian, thank you ever so much for your call. And look, I've got 25 minutes before I'm no longer earning money, but giving it to migrants instead. Way! Okay, well, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we're going to be focusing on some of the other stories rattling about this weekend with a sequence of brilliant guests. So don't go anywhere. Goodbye to Lauren, who's been utterly fantastic.
Thank you very much. Her. A pleasure to have you to be on here.
Go to church.
Yep, I will.
Go pray to God, because maybe that will help. Right, going to take a short break, but I'm back just after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. It's me, myself, and I now. Bye, Lauren. I'm by myself. But don't worry, because I've got a succession of brilliant guests lined up all the way through till 10 o'clock. And, of course, I've got you, haven't I? Thank you so much. Friends will be friends. Now, where do friends go when they want to hang out? Well, they like to go for a booze, don't they? And the Labour government have decided they want to try and make it easier for more pubs and music venues to open. We all thought they were a bunch of misery guts, didn't they? But apparently not. What they want to do is where you've got all these empty places along the high street, you know, closed shops because they didn't survive Rachel Reeves' swindling taxation. Instead, they want to cut red tape to make it possible for more hospitality zones to be created, which would see outside dining, street parties, extended opening hours, all pushed through quickly. Developers, however, will be made responsible for soundproofing buildings near pubs and clubs to protect existing venues from noise complaints. Hey, Labour Party putting the party into party. What do you make of that? Let's speak now to Michael Kill, who's the CEO of the Nighttime Industries Association. Michael, what I've read so far about this story is the hospitality sector saying anything that cuts red tape and might help boost its spread is a good thing, but also saying, well, that's all very well, saying you want to get rid of some of the planning permissions and make sort of derelict high streets homes for bars and patio dining, but we can't afford to even employ staff right now because of your national insurance and your tax hikes and your alcohol duty. What do you make of this story?
Well, I think with everything, it's the devil's in the detail. So we're waiting to find out a bit more about exactly what this means, but it's definitely a positive step forward. Without a doubt, this can't be the only part of a bigger plan. The economics has got to be a big part of it. As we know, many of the trade bodies have been talking sort of avidly and openly about the challenges around the cost of operating and also the cost of disposal of daily living and people having less disposable income. So this is a positive step forward, I believe. When we start to talk about the licensing framework, it's something that has been very onerous in terms of the sector. So to actually make it more permissive and enabling, I think is a really positive step forward. But we also need to look at things like safety on the street, transport infrastructure, and other pieces alongside the most important bit, which is taking some of that economic pressure away from the sector as a whole.
I mean, I'm a big supporter of every town needs a pub because pub is where people gather, they share their thoughts. It's where the communities get together. The more we work from home, the more we live in this sort of atomized society where we just sort of exist in echo chambers on social media, not having gossip at the water cooler, the sadder we become as a country. And so the idea that we can all get together and there'll be more sort of, you know, hospitality businesses up and down the high streets, for me, is an endlessly good thing. But, you know, one of the problems I have with this, as you said, is we already have pubs and restaurants that aren't staying open. Isn't it one a day at the moment closing down in the pub world? Why aren't the government focusing on making sure they're not closing down rather than changing licensing to try and create new ones?
Well, as you can appreciate, one a day is what we're losing in terms of pubs. In terms of nighttime economy businesses, there's a similar story. I think this is one part of a bigger picture, which I am sort of alongside many of my colleagues are driving towards resolutions. It is going to give the industry some level of confidence because one of the challenges is the regulatory framework. We know that when we went through the financial crisis, hospitality and nighttime economy were a big driver of re-establishing the high street, re-establishing those community hubs. So I think this is a positive step forward. As you can appreciate with everything that comes from the government, the detail is really important. We can talk in terms of the headlines at the moment, but as far as we sit and what we see moving forward, alongside my colleagues, we see this as a positive step, but it cannot be the only thing that we have moving forward. There needs to be other things to address the economics, address safety, address transport, some of those key areas that we know our consumers are troubled with, and then we can start to sort of celebrate starting to focus focus on a confident step forward. But until we understand the detail, that's very challenging.
I mean, I was thinking the other day when I was in London, I loved it during sort of the weird stage of COVID when we were allowed to drink and eat, but we had to do it outside. When places like Soho just had all of this lovely street dining everywhere, I thought it was wonderful, and I'd love to see that reintroduced. And it seems to me that that is part of the plan, which is great. But there must be people who live in town centres who think, oh my goodness, this is going to be an absolute nightmare. What about the antisocial behaviour?
Well, I think this is where policing comes in. I mean, recently we heard about the increase in policing, particularly some of the pieces around the Mayor of London and some of the police force increases in terms of numbers. Without a doubt, there is going to be a resonating concern for people on that, and it's about balance for us. But we also have to understand that the high streets are dwindling. Retail is really under a lot of pressure, and we need to start driving people back into these environments to give people the confidence in the footfall to be able to invest. And the key thing for us, I think, is by looking at this and utilising hospitality and nighttime economy as an opportunity to steer the high street, steer communities back into coming into those sort of hubs, I think is a really important part. And it starts with some of the regulatory framework. But at the moment, it is a very oppressive and challenging framework that we're under. And we're under a lot of pressure from policing and authorities in terms of how we operate. So this, for us as an industry, is positive, but it has to be addressed with balance. And this is where the detail is going to be really important to understand.
I mean, reading this, to me, the focus seems more on creating perpendicular drinking, perhaps, you know, this sort of bar environment, rather than it focusing on pubs, which pubs tend to be more community-based, not in town centres. Pubs don't rely on shops being boarded up to set up their enterprise. They exist already. They're a British institution. And I worry that we're not protecting the heritage of the pub with this legislation, but focusing on a more continental style of socialising.
Well, the one thing that we recognise as the sort of market shifts is the fact that things like no and low alcohol have become a really prominent piece. That sort of Mediterranean feel about coming and drinking and eating is really important. So the market is somewhat dictating a non-vertical drinking environment as we used to know very well. People want to come out, socialise, they want to sit in groups, they want to have sort of bites to eat, they want to enjoy those outdoor spaces, they want to people watch. You know, these are really an important part not only of the pubs but the bar network when you start to look in the high streets. So I think for us this is the right time or moment, given the consumer position and understanding how hospitality and nighttime economy is being used and the way that the market is requiring it to look so that they can engage. So I think there is a really important piece here around it's the right timing for it. We just need to understand exactly what the government wants to do moving forward in terms of detail, but I think it's an opportunity. Without a doubt, there has to be some balance in terms of residential and business, but I think we can work that forward. There are mechanisms that I think we can use to ensure that it allays any issues moving forward. Plus, we work very closely with the local authorities and police. So I think the key to it is it's an opportunity. I think we need to grab it with both hands, given the current economic climate, and start to build back some confidence in the high street and particularly within the sectors that we represent.
There you go, Michael Kill, CEO of Nighttime Ministers Association, actually welcoming some Labour Party policy, which I do as well. It's not often I praise this government, but I do think the more we get together and socialise and spend time drinking, eating, talking, the happier we are as a country. I just wish more of it happened in our pubs. Right, we're going to take a short break now, but when I come back after the break, we're going to be catching up with Talk's royal correspondent, Rupert Bell, from all of the gossip with our very own royal family. That's after this.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back to the show. It is the time of the programme on a Sunday where we find out what is going on in the world at the Royals, and I'm joined now by the wonderful Rupert Bell to do just that. Good morning, Rupert. Hi, Roops. Can't hear you, love.
Well,
there you are. I got you now. I don't know whether I'd gone temporarily deaf or whether there was a technological glitch. Who knows? It's 10 to 8 in the morning on a Sunday and anything could happen. Now, talking about anything could happen, tell me about a really unlikely friendship between King Charles and the Prince of Darkness.
Yes, Ozzy Osbourne, who sadly died last week, just a few days after appearing at Villa Park in a concert where he was born in Aston, a suburb of Birmingham, of course, the home of Aston Villa, which Prince William is a passionate supporter of. But more importantly, the King and Ozzy Osbourne seem to have had constant communication for well over 20 years, it would seem. Even the King writing to him after he had a quad bike crash, sending him get well messages, according to his wife Sharon, even sending him bottles of whiskey to help his recovery, and also appearing at Jubilee concerts. So an unlikely friendship, you would say. I'm not sure that the King goes jumping around to Black Sabbath tracks around Windsor Castle or wherever he should be staying, but I do think, they're similar age, and I think he sort of found him an interesting character, and you couldn't deny the fact that Ozzy Osbourne wasn't a very interesting person, fought Parkinson's disease in the latter stages of his life, but he never let it define him. And of course, was with his wife, had a very successful reality TV show. But the relationship with the King does, on the face of it, seem an unlikely one, but by all accounts, a grudging and more than a respect for what both were about from the pair of them. And I think the King would have enjoyed the sort of bluntness and the eccentricity of Ozzy Osbourne, who said what he thought and was definitely someone who's going to be missed by all and sundry.
Well, you see, there you go. I actually deduced from this story that perhaps Prince Charles was a secret headbanger when he didn't have the crown on, because I don't think that he was there vindicating Ozzy Osbourne's animal welfare. That's something that the King himself is quite passionate about. I don't think he'd be sort of, I like that man, he bites heads off bats.
Well, yeah, I think that there's more. Yes, I know that was when he was very wild. I mean, at times probably in Ozzy Osbourne's life, I'm not sure he knew exactly what he was doing on stage, off stage. Because, as I say, he didn't leave anything out there, Ozzy Osbourne. Whether it was, as you say, potentially eating bats on stage. No, the King wouldn't have been totally in favour of that. I'm sure at Highgrove and places there are plenty of places for bats to rest and get away from an eager Ozzy Osbourne back in the day. But in terms of the other stuff, I just think he respected him, and I think they got on well. And in a way, Ozzy Osbourne is someone you were drawn to. You just think, how did he survive? But he was a brilliant musician. He was groundbreaking of his time. And I think the King respects that and come from a similar generation, born at the same time. And I think that's part of the reason why they had an endearing friendship. Whether it was, I'm not sure he was ringing him every day of the week, but I'm sure he was always aware of what Ozzy was up to. I mean, he was always sort of in the news at various stages of his life. Some obviously more bad at times, but most of the time, I think people enjoyed being around the lead singer of Black Sabbath.
Do you know, I can almost see it now. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when that happened, the sort of little pen pal communication they had where Prince Charles summons his private secretary. Oh, please, would you scribe the following? Dear Ozzy. I just think it's wonderful. It's a rather charming little story, that. Now, let's talk about Kate and William, because they're considering leaving their rather charming, cosy little Adelaide cottage, which is simply a 4-bedroom house, very modest for royals, and moving into a grander estate, a Gothic pile called Fort Belvedere. What's going on there?
Well, Fort Belvedere used to be the home of Edward VII. I mean, it was and has been lived in ever. Well, Edward VII, he did his abdication letter from there. It's a home in the Windsor Great Park. It's upscaling, I think, for the Prince and Princess of Wales, the 4-bedroom, and obviously their children are all approaching teenage years, and I suppose they deem it right to sort of move up to something. I think it's got 8 bedrooms, so they get a little bit more space. It's got tennis courts and swimming pools, so it's definitely not going to be uncomfortable. But I think the issue is they obviously want to maintain their privacy, and maybe just with the children getting a little bit bigger and taking up more space, they may feel it's prudent to move up to, which is available. It affords plenty of privacy, which is something that's extremely important to the Waleses. So I can see that may be on the agenda. Obviously, they're currently away. I imagine they're spending a fair amount of time at Amner Hall up in Norfolk for their summer holidays at present, and maybe going on to Sandringham, Balmoral, to spend time with the King and Queen over the coming weeks. But I can definitely see that this would be something on the agenda. They enjoy living in Adelaide Cottage, but perhaps feel they might need just a little bit more room as their children get older.
But sticking very much in Windsor, it seems. I mean, they did, of course, start their relationship in Kensington, in the centre of London. I'd imagine that Windsor probably offers a lot more privacy and calm for the both of them. Tell me about Netflix not renewing Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's £100 million deal. And what I want to know is, have they kept the £100 million and there will be no more? Or is this cutting that financial supply off midway?
I think we might just have to hold fire on it at the moment. There does seem to be a lot of differing reports, because the head of Netflix is a very good friend, supposedly, of Meghan, and there are some investments Netflix have within the As Ever chain. You know, they are helping to invest and promote it. There is another series done under the initial deal that is coming out, the As Ever, the Forever Meghan program, which I can't wait to see. But he says, because the first one was pretty dull, but I think there is talk that there are negotiations going on. Most of the cooking program did all right, but I think there is a sort of curiosity value. You know, she creates her own kind of publicity that people tune in just out of not because it's good, but because her name draws people to it. And I think Netflix because working on the theory that all publicity is good publicity, whether bad. And I think there is an element of that about the Meghan name, that she does draw people to her. So Netflix may still see some commercial sense in having a deal with Meghan. Just she's got to come up with something that's good. That may be the harder part. So I'm not entirely saying that the Netflix deal is dead, but there are differing reports. But I think it's a brave decision if they want to go ahead, because overall I don't think it's been a rip-roaring success.
No, that it hasn't. They must be keeping the door open, one thing, so in case she decides to have another Barney at her husband's family or something like that.
Well, I think there might be an element of that. I wonder whether Harry's not... His Invictus Games documentary didn't do very well, which... From a personal point, I wish that one had done better, because I think that could have had an opportunity to tell some really good stories, but it's not something that's going to drive the dial. And the polo documentary was a flop. Yeah. So from Harry's point of view, I'm not sure how he's going to sit within the Netflix deal and what he can bring to the table. But Meghan still can bring a certain notoriety, as long as she can find something that people want, because as we know, her podcast series, first she was with Spotify, Then she finds a deal with Lemonada. But each podcast series hasn't actually been particularly good in what is a crowded market.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. We only want to tune into Megan when she's being horrible about things. Rupert Bell, thank you ever so much. That is your royal update, ladies and gentlemen. We're halfway through, aren't we? Congratulations. If you've been with me from 6 a.m, I salute you. If you've just joined us and you've missed the first 2 hours, then don't worry. You can go onto YouTube or onto the Talk app and watch back from the beginning. Lauren and I had all sorts of wacky conversations that you really want to watch if you've missed them. We're going to be taking your messages and your calls in the next hour, so keep your thoughts coming in. 0344 499 1000 is the number to dial if you'd like to register your interest, and then my wonderful producers will give you a call back when it is the moment to have a chit chat. You can also use that number to send me a WhatsApp message, or please leave me a voice note. 87222 on the text. Right talk before your message. Ads now. Don't go anywhere. Back after this.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People schmiggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, when more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels, and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning my lovelies, my patriots, my discerning folk of Britain who have decided to spend your Sunday with me. What a wonderful decision that is, and thank you. I feel very honoured to have your company this morning. Welcome aboard if you've just joined us. I don't blame you, it's a Sunday, it's kind of hard getting up, well, full stop, isn't it, when it's the weekend, but congratulations for being awake at 8 a.m. Extra big congratulations, a shout out and salutations to those who have been up for the first 2 hours of this programme. You really are extremely brave, and your company is massively appreciated. We have got lots to talk about today because guess what? The migrant crisis, you know, that old thing that ain't being solved. The Home Office have come up with some really good ideas Oh, they have. They know exactly how to stop things from kicking off because they're letting who knows who from who knows where into the country to do who knows what. That's right. They're setting up an elite police force, no less. And that elite police force is going to be monitoring everything going on online. Yeah, not to smash the gangs, to prevent us moaning about it. That's right, an elite police force is going to be scanning for intelligence on where protests might be taking place, looking for anti-migrant sentiment. How chilling is that? How long before I'm carted off to Clink? Probably pretty soon, but don't worry. If they do that, if they dare grab me by my luggle and take me down to prison, I've got a book in me, I reckon. I've got a bestseller. Watch out, Jeffrey Archer. I'm going to show you how it's done. Please don't get me. I'm only 41. I've got so much more of my life to live. In the other top 10 of the most ridiculous legislation this government is bringing forward about the migrant crisis is, get this, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is going to make it illegal to crowd more than 80 migrants into a small boat. Am I missing something here? If our genius of a Home Secretary is going to say, well, it's criminal to put 80 people in a dinghy, is that suggesting that 79 people breaking into the country is perfectly okay? Mate, this ain't coach tours. This isn't like a saga holiday where you have to make sure that everybody signed up to go on a nice little trip, wears their seatbelt and is properly hydrated and the tannoy system works. These are really weird, dodgy people coming from countries and we don't know who they are, breaking the law, paying people traffickers, often connected to violent international crime or terrorist organisations. What next? You're going to go make sure that they all have little songs to sing and someone at the front with a whistle and a sign so when they get to the beach of Dover they can all stay together? I mean, just honestly, I despair. I really do. This government are chilling. They're chilling in their ineptitude, but they're chilling as well in the fact that every single time things get a little bit fruity, as it is getting, because the people of Britain are absolutely fed up with fighting age men being stuck in hotels up and down the country or even moved into a house in the street near you. Instead of actually dealing with that, they want to deal with us. So dystopian. Let's speak now to Candice Holdsworth, political commentator, a great friend of mine. Good morning to you, Candice.
Morning, Alex.
Elite police force, my darling. Smash the gangs. No, smash us. That's what they want to do. They want to intimidate us. They want to shut us up. They want to make sure that we're gaslit. And if we're not gaslit enough and we can still see the big glaring problem in front of our eyes, they want to make sure we dare not open our mouths and talk about it.
Yeah, that's what they think the problem is. They haven't really grasped that the problem is actually their policies, their migration stance, the asylum system. They think it's the far right and racist people talking about it, or as they deem them to be racist. I mean, they're not. They're just normal, common sense people. And this has been going back years and years and years, way back to the early 2000s when people first started questioning the asylum system, when they saw that, for instance, you know, many of these hateful preachers who had said things that had caused homegrown terrorists to attack the UK, a lot of them had been here, they'd been granted asylum, and people began to realize that this system was not working in the interests of the British people. But that's such a dirty word amongst these Labour types and these left-wing types. Working in the national interest? You can't do that. You've got to maximise global welfare. And so that's why you're seeing absolutely ridiculous things like safety regulations for migrant boats, because that's what they're thinking about. You know, that's all they can ever think about. You know, Keir Starmer is just the worst person to be dealing with this issue because of his human rights background. So for him, you know, any sort of like hard-headed stance that you would take to deal with it, a common sense stance, for him, it would be cruel. It would be cruel to do that. So he can't do it. They're all just completely ill-equipped. I mean, most people in Labour are the most ill-equipped people you could think of to deal with this crisis. They can't do it. Their comfort zone is focusing on the far right. And that's what they believe it is. They still believe that. They can't. I think they're in total denial that the British people are up in arms about this.
Yeah, no, and do you know what? It's funny in this day and age how normalised things become and how quickly. Because, you know, after last year's riots, and I always do sort of slight inverted commas for that, because I think they were protests that were infiltrated and deliberately G'd up. There's my tinfoil hat, nice and shiny, so it is. I'm going to put it back down here. But I didn't ever think, if someone said to me 5-10 years ago, the government's going to create an elite force to monitor what you're saying on social media, I'd be like, what? This ain't China. This ain't, you know, Iran. What? No, don't be stupid. Britain's not like that. And yet it's almost like water off a duck's back now. You read that headline, you're like, well, yeah, aren't they doing that anyway? Lucy Connolly's still in prison. All she did was put up a post, sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek, and she's doing 31 months. And so nothing comes as a surprise anymore. And that is what is so corrosive about all of this. In that regard, it does seem to have an effect. What they're doing is looking at all these protests popping up outside hotels up and down the country. They're not spilling into violence. However many Antifa activists they bus into the heart of these protests, by and large, it's just people standing there wanting to have their say. They have every right to do, because they've been ignored at the ballot box over and over and over. And so this is kind of ramping it up a bit, isn't it? This is sort of turning up the heat under the fog to make sure it jumps out of the bowl by now telling us that we're going to have an elite force of people scanning social media for anti-migrant sentiment. It's really harrowing.
Yes, it is. And I think that, you know, one thing that British people are struggling with is that the way that people in other countries view us now. I mean, I was quite shocked the other day. I had some friends from Australia who were visiting, and they were bringing up the free speech issue in Britain. And you sort of go, what? And you realize, like, that's how other Western countries see us. They see us as having a free speech problem. And a lot of this is to do with exactly what you were saying. You know, as the population becomes more restive, the politicians, instead of dealing with the issues that they have created, instead they try to manage the population. I mean, that's how they see it. They think it's all just troublemakers on social media. They've got no idea what ordinary people are thinking. They are so divorced from the concerns of ordinary people. And what's going on is more and more and more resentments being built up over time. People just feel that their elected representatives are not listening to them. They're not doing what they should be doing. And that's why people are taking to the streets. I mean, the protests in Epping have been largely peaceful, ordinary people. You know, the ones last year, some of those did become violent. But what we do know is that wasn't started by the far right, and it wasn't primarily by social media. Those were local people with local concerns. And there is just this sour atmosphere. Everyone can sense it. I mean, you know, even people I know on the left who previously used to sort of, you know, downplay these issues, they all think that things have reached boiling point, and you are not going to be able to stop it by having people monitor social media and delete a few accounts. That ain't going to work. That is not going to work. People are talking in the towns and cities. They are speaking amongst each other. And look, I don't think that the Labour government can get on top of this issue. I mean, this is the big problem. I mean, you know, you've got a party in power which just singularly cannot focus on this, cannot grasp it, cannot do what needs to be done. And yet we're at a time where things desperately need to be done. And that is such a toxic mix. I don't know how that's going to shake out. I really, really, really don't. They can just try and suppress people, which is what they're trying to do, but it's not going to work.
I wonder if Donald Trump might get a glimpse of these headlines while he's staying up in Scotland, because when he landed in Scotland, the very first thing he said is, Europe, you're ruining your countries with this invasion of illegal immigrants. He said, you've got to stop this and you've got to stop it now. Previously, he had said no free trade without free speech. If you remember that sort of conversation in the Oval Office with J.D. Vance, and he basically said, you've got to make sure that, you know, the people of Britain aren't being oppressed. We don't do that. We love free speech, says Keir Starmer. I rather hope that Donald gets a glimpse of these headlines about the elite police force cracking down on anti-migrant sentiment and actually says to Sir Keir Starmer today, no, actually, I'm going to whack tariffs on your country, even though that might be bad for our economy, but to prove to him that he's got to take this seriously, that we cannot suddenly become a country in a continent that is allowing itself to go to wreck and ruin because of this suicidal empathy towards a load of people who tend to viscerally hate us, and that actually something's done because our own political establishment's not going to do anything. We kind of need the Americans to ride to our rescue.
I know. I mean, it's a tragic state of affairs. I mean, you know, Britain is where free speech comes from. The whole idea of free speech is different to in the US. You know, in the US, it's, you know, you have a constitutional right to it. But here, it's just something that was sort of seen within the culture, right? You know, and everything is permitted unless it's explicitly forbidden. You know, that's the way we see it. And I just think that we've gotten to this state now is so sad when we think of, you know, our ally, Britain, it was British people that created the American Constitution, and they're looking to us and they're sort of thinking, what happened to you? And that they might need to take a stronger stance with us. I mean, I think it's dizzying. I can't quite believe we're at this point. But if you look at the US and you look at how they have solved their immigration issue, look at their southern border. I think crossings have dropped by something like 97%. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, they've got on top of it. It's an unpleasant thing, right? No one likes, you know, having to go in and do all these mass deportations. And it's an ugly thing, right, to be the face of it. But you have to do it. You have to do it. You owe it to your population to do it. And also, it's creating chaos. Yeah. Politically. I mean, what, you know, you can say about Donald Trump and the current Republican administration, they are doing what the people asked them to do. They were elected to do it, and they are doing it. I don't know why it's so hard for politicians in this country to follow that example.
Why do they hate us? Why do they hate us? I mean, this ridiculous I've never read something more banal and ridiculous than the idea that the Home Secretary wants to make crowding in these dinghies if they have more than 80 migrants a criminal offence. Like, isn't it just a criminal offence for a people trafficker to be trafficking humans, not the amount of humans they're being trafficked? Someone's just messaged to say, who on earth are you going to arrest? You know, I don't understand how they're going to criminalise overcrowded boats. Who's going to get nicked for this? I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And then what really stuck in my craw is the fact that Ms. Cooper is worried about women and children being crushed at sea. Hold on, love. Have you seen those boats? There's no women and children on them. Very, very few. Why are you not worried about women and children in this country facing harassment, assault, criminality, their phones nicked, feeling unsafe on the street, wondering who on earth those 6 men are who've just moved in next door?
Yes, I don't know if you remember back in 2015, there was a New York Times article. It was all about, you know, when the big migration waves started happening. And there were countries in Europe, I think it was Norway and Sweden, were having classes for migrants on how to behave towards women in Western countries because they came from countries where women's rights are not respected. I mean, I remember there was an Eritrean migrant quoted in the piece saying, in my country, if you want a woman, you can just take her. So he basically, you know, he's basically in a Western country now with these ideas, and the elites in that country are like, well, we'll just give him a few classes and hope for the best. There's this complete disregard for the people of their country and why should they be subjected to that? But no one asked that question. I think it's only now that people are actually saying, hey, put your own people first. Put the national interest first. That is just common sense. But common sense, I think, is also reviled as well because it's common, right? I mean, it's what the people think.
This is the thing, right? I had the loveliest taxi driver come and bring me to work this morning who was from Eritrea. Really lovely man. Couldn't have felt safer and more delighted that he was conveying me to my workplace today. But when you have people who are happy to pay sums of money to illegals, and a lot of them are paying sums of money, are not even paying sums of money to illegals, meaning that they owe those sums of money when they get to the other side, which is why they have to work in the black market or even commit crime to earn the funds to pay back the evil people behind the people trafficking. But have you seen, I don't know if you have, but talking about the elite force monitoring social media. Oh yeah, they're going to monitor what we say, Candice. They ain't going to monitor the actual people traffickers who have subscriber-only accounts on TikTok where they get to charge people money for watching their content and keep most of the revenue. TikTok obviously taking their own share. Government does nothing about that, do they? There was one particular video of a guy who's sort of celebrating coming over on a boat. Have a little look. I'm story, but there he is with his lovely little film of the beach, the woman in the bikini. Yeah, just like the Baywatch babes of Baghdad. But there he is with his beautiful set of gnashers, his sort of like very trendy little tattoos, his coiffured hairstyle, his smartphone where he's putting up his videos to all of his followers. In what world does that person look like they're fleeing persecution? I'm sorry, in what world does that person look like they're in desperate need for a roof over their head?
Yeah, we know that because we know it's people who pay a huge amount of money to get passage, basically. I mean, these are not the poorest and the most desperate people. It's also why most of them are men as well. I mean, it's just, you just have to look at it with your own eyes to see that something isn't right. I mean, it does bring up the role of TikTok once again. I mean, TikTok is playing a very negative role in all of this. I mean, this is clearly illegal activity. And it's not just that, it's in political discourse. I mean, there have been numerous studies, a lot of stuff on TikTok. It's sort of brainwashing the young because, I mean, a lot of what the algorithm serves up to them is very anti-Western as well. I mean, you see like younger people, particularly people Gen Z, I mean, they have like radical views which diverge wildly from older generations, and that's because of heavy TikTok usage. But we don't know much about TikTok, and any attempts to sort of scrutinize it are shut down. And I think it is playing a very, very, very negative role. And I think we have to be very careful about what we see on there. I mean, there's obviously this is illegal activity, but there's a lot of other stuff going on as well.
But this is the problem. They just come after us. They come after the things that we're saying and that we're doing, not what the things we're worried about are saying and doing. Why we've got an elite police force making sure that we don't have anti-migrant sentiment while migrants are clearly, with their bragging rights, showing all their mates, come to Britain, look at this babe on the beach. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? See some bare buttocks, don't get that very often down Kabul. It harrows me. There's something really menacing about all of this. And this Labour government's constant reaction time and again is to go for extreme mind control, gaslighting, threatening, intimidating, silencing, censoring, demonising. It is evil.
Yes, well, we're the problem, right? It's not that they've created a situation. I think going back to Tony Blair's era, where they've created this problem with immigration. Their policies have created this, and instead of being able to face that and deal with it, instead they turn on us. We're the problem. It's us. Why can't we just accept their benevolence, right? They've got all these great ideas, and it's our problem. Why can't we just agree that, Britain is a very privileged country, the nation state is an evil idea, borders are an evil idea. And I promise you, many people within the Labour Party hold these views. They just have, I said it to you before, they've just got absolutely no common sense. That has been my experience of them. They often have very, very radical ideas about things, far, far to the left of what most ordinary people think. It's not, I don't believe it's a party that represents just ordinary working people anymore.
It's a cult. It's a cult. They uphold all these crazy Marxist views with this sort of fervour of religiosity. To them, it's sort of self-defining. This is the holy grail of their own self-righteousness. They terrify me. Candice, thank you ever so much, my darling. Always lovely to catch up with you. Right, we're going to take a short break now, but I'm going to give myself a little time off, a little relaxation after this by inviting two other people to do all the squabbling over the big news stories of the day, because when we come back after the commercials, it's going to be time for Head to Head. That's after this.
Again, shocking but not surprising. I mean, I think one of the whistleblowers said there about, I think it was 70% of shoplifters in the West End are asylum seekers. I mean, there was also a man working in private security who said that his teams are at breaking points, and the area is verging on, you know, sorts of anarchy, lawlessness. Again, this isn't surprising.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back to the show. Now, as promised, this is the moment that I'm going to sit and possibly get in a fetal position under the desk because I'm really tired. If you hear some sort of sonorous snoring noises, I promise it's not me. I had my adenoids out when I was about 12 years old. It will be me. But don't worry, because these two are going to keep you entertained. No, I'm going to stay awake because I've got to adjudicate it to make sure that they don't start ripping bits of flesh off each other, because it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for Head to Head. And we have got in the right Matthew Goodwin Freeman. Not to be mistaken for Matthew Goodwin. No. Because he's also a free man.
Yeah, absolutely, I am. So
he's the free version of Matthew Goodwin.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. We don't pay me to get here, so it's fine.
There you go. Conservative counsel and commentator. And for the left, we've got Paul Richards, former Labour special advisor. A SPAD with a D.
Indeed.
As I always like to point out. Right, gentlemen, like make eye contact, shake hands, play nice.
Good luck.
Yeah.
It'd be better than the Dubois and usage, though. That was a waste of time. I was there and up in the top of the stands, and literally 12 minutes, that's it, it's all over.
Oh, he knocked him out, didn't he? Clean,
he tapped him on the nose, and he sat there just going, yeah, I don't need this. And he still made 50 million quid, so, you know.
Is that what we're making today? I don't know.
We'll have to talk about that. Can you sort that out, Alex? Just sort the 50 million quid
I'd
for
love
us?
to even make something more than I'm making myself. It'd be great, wouldn't it? You have no idea. But basically, also, this is what I've been saying the whole show. When it gets to this time of day, I'm no longer making money. This is the tax part of the programme.
Well, Rachel from accounts will love that.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I always say, you know, from 6 a.m. till 8 a.m, I'm earning my money, getting my food, paying my mortgage off. And then after that, I'm just putting up migrants in hotels. So, yay
Too
for
many
me.
hotels.
Yay for me. Now, I want to talk to you guys about, this is really, you know, this has got me hot under the collar. The fact that it's been announced that elite team of police officers is going to be monitoring social media. No, not the people traffickers, not the people making money on TikTok advertising their wares, saying, come and look at these bare buttocks on the beach, isn't it lovely? Pay us and you can have all the joys that Britain has to offer. No, they're going to be monitoring us for anti-migrant sentiment. Me, basically. Bye-bye, I'll see you in about 31 months' time. What do you make of this, Matthew Goodwin Freeman?
Well, I mean, be careful what you put now on Twitter, because, I mean, this government has literally become the definition of 1984. You can't say what you want anymore. We believe in freedom of speech as long as you agree with the ruling party. You know, the idea that the police are now going to be monitoring people's tweets instead of getting out on the streets says it all. You know, we literally are living in a situation where police are getting cut around the country. London alone is losing nearly 2,000 police thanks to our good friend Sadiq Khan. You know, it's absolutely atrocious. But hey, let's spend more time on Twitter. That's where the real crimes are committed. You know, freedom of speech, people saying what they think and actually flagging up the disaster this country is heading to.
But, right, and this is where I'm going to sort of make a little brief for Paul Richards to come in and give us his opinion, because there could be an argument here that what we're seeing is the assemblage of people protesting outside migrant hotels. We saw what happened last year when protests flipped into riots, and perhaps this is all about just making sure that the tinderbox of the country that we've become doesn't go up in flames. Is that fair, Paul?
Well, your modern neo-Nazi does not have a membership card and go to branch meetings in a room above a pub like they used to in the days of the National Front or the BNP. They are working online to stir up trouble. So this police unit is, of course, going after the bad guys, but where the bad guys actually are, which is incubating their hate online and then marshalling their forces through these demonstrations or attacks on the hotels, whatever it might be, using the internet. So of course the police have to be policing that. The internet is not an ungovernable Wild West where anyone can do and say anything they like, and especially not if there are real-world consequences where people are turning up. And my fear is that ordinary people, the sort of expressing the kind of views that you are, will be, drawn into these things with the agent provocateur, who then, people getting arrested, having their lives changed beyond all recognition because of something they've read on the internet. So let's go after the bad guys that are doing that.
That's my worry. It's where's the line going to be?
Who are the bad guys,
well,
right?
This is the point. People are going to be putting out tweets saying what they want.
Oh,
you never know. People putting out tweets saying what they want, and then suddenly the police go...
fascists and neo-Nazis, and those people do exist. They are organised. They are getting funded often from other countries, and that's who the police are going after.
What about the anti-fascists, though? Because they seem to be the ones turning up in Bally's and, prodding the bear.
Well, I'm a centrist, and I don't support that either. Violence on both sides is wrong, and we are a democracy.
Yeah, but it's only the ones on the right who ever get prosecuted.
No, well, that's not true, is it? Because we saw
locked up.
We saw the Palestinian demonstrators getting arrested, and we saw their organisation being proscribed. So actually, the police are being tough on them too. And I don't support. In a democracy, you have the right to peaceful protest. You don't have the right to smash stuff up and break into RAF bases. And if you really want to have your say, you get yourself elected, or like you have, you stand for office. Make the argument and get some votes in a ballot box. That's what we do in this country.
Do you think that this is therefore a rather disingenuous headline here, where the idea instead is to make sure that police forces get intelligence of whether people are coordinating and corralling actual violence, whereas it sort of suggests from the top line that it's going to monitor social media for anti-migrant sentiment. And there's a big difference, isn't there, between monitoring for anti-migrant sentiment or stopping people actually going out and lobbing missiles at cops.
Yeah.
But one can lead to the other. That's the whole point. When they can, if they monitor it across, multiple data points, and they're seeing if there is a sudden upsurge of particular mentions of a particular hotel or whatever, that will give the police the intelligence to do the job that we pay them to do, which is to stop rioting in the streets. I mentioned upstairs rooms in pubs, by the way. When in sort of left-wing meetings in the 80s, upstairs rooms in the pubs, you could always tell the special branch officer, because they'd be sort of sitting at the back looking slightly out of place and trying to sort of say things that didn't quite fit in. And so the police have been monitoring extremist activity forever. Just now they're doing it online because that's where people are doing it.
The point is, it's the slippery slope. Where is the line between?
Reasonable point.
And that's the thing. It's the slippery slope. People do not trust the government. People do not trust the police. So imagine now people going, we're going to give them access to social media and let them look at everything that you say. And the second you step over the line, that no one can define where the line actually is. 31 months.
But then there's so many platforms now that if you were a clever person, if you really were part of organised fascism, let's say, you would know not to make a Facebook group going, yo, do you want to come and lob some Coke cans at a policeman's head today? You'd be using Telegram, you'd be using Signal, you'd be using WhatsApp with all of its highly encrypted content.
You'd have an account that isn't your name, isn't linked to an email address to you. It's not rocket science.
So is the worry therefore not that it's going to be the Lucy Connollys who had just said something utterly vile but idiotic in the heat of a moment, who are going to get the rap, and not the people sitting there coordinating the hooliganism?
Well, the logic of that argument, which is a good one, which is why you need a specialist police unit to do it, because they're not just sitting there at a desk looking at Facebook. They are going after the bad guys in some of these encrypted spaces.
Can they get in those encrypted spaces? I always wonder this, because the platforms go, no, they can't. And I know that there's ways in which you can get part of a group, for instance, and as an undercover officer, but I do worry that the most accessible stuff, the easy stuff to go after, is people like Alison Pearson. That is the concern. Let's talk about some other policy that's being put in place to try and smash the gangs. Paul, you're going to have to make this make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense, so we can't.
I love the fact I haven't said what it is, but you know,
Sorry, we just can't.
Already it don't make sense. But the Home Secretary wants to make crowding more than 80 migrants into small boats a criminal offence. Paul, is it not a criminal offence to just put one migrant in a small boat and take money to traffic them? What is this? Coachtoursforyou.com, you must wear your seatbelts.
So as I've said multiple times to you and others, is if there was a single simple thing that any government or whatever stripe could do to stop the boats and smash the gangs, then they would do it. What we've learned is that you have to do lots of different things all at the same time. So this is another example of just another approach alongside puncturing the boats, stopping the boats getting to the coast in the first place.
Because surely, you won't be like, "Ooh, you're a people trafficker, but you've only got 79 people in your vessel, so carry on, my friend.
No,
you're a people trafficker with 80.
But that's still an offence, just a different offence. So this is boosting the law, so that there's yet another thing that the legal authorities can do to stop the trade. But, that doesn't mean 79 is OK. Obviously, it's not. And we can puncture those boats, or we can, send them...
Only when a camera crew's there to film that we're puncturing the boat, though. That's the problem.
Or we can send the people, put them on the boat in the first place to prison, or we can stop them going to work for delivery, or other food outlets are available. It's all the multiple things you have to do to try and do this. And like I say, if it was easy, we'd all have done it by now, wouldn't we?
People are fed up of being taken for mugs. That's literally what this country is becoming. So you're completely right. It's now tweaking the Borders, Immigration and Nationalities Bill, I think, to make it more than 80 people on a boat. That's it. It's suddenly illegal. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is
it's
funny
illegal
to me that
anyway.
they'll be like, well, I'll risk the 79 because I don't want the stricter sentence.
But nothing gets done. Nothing gets done.
Guys,
that's the state of things.
Got to take a break now, don't we? Because, I was moaning about, I've got to pop up those migrant hotels. If we don't pay those, people with the commercials, then those migrant hotels ain't getting no funding from a taxation, are they? So here you go. Good luck to you with your delivery rounds. If you need your pocket money, this is going to help.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I've just been warned by Phil Dave, who is the big boss of everything, that when I flail my arms around like this, it goes into their shot, it goes on their camera. So if you thought that Thing from the Addams family, here it is, Thing from the Addams family is making a little...
There we go.
Oh, look! Hold on, let's go grab Paul's head. Yeah, there you go. That's what I call professionalism right there. So if you wondered why there was a descending giant hand, it's me. I'm just very expressive.
Just the hand of the state. The state's coming after us.
There we go. Right, now let's do a bit of a handbrake turn, U-turn, back to the series.
Just
because
like it's fine.
The theory is today that Sir Keir Starmer is going to be meeting Donald Trump at the golf course or nearby, one assumes, to have a chit-chat. And it is believed that one of the topics of conversation that's going to be hotly discussed is Gaza, because America seems to be out there by themselves a bit at the moment in the resolute support for Israel, although reports are that even the MAGA movement's getting a bit fed up with the heat that they're getting from what's going on over in Gaza. But on the other side, Sir Keir Starmer said he's not going to recognise Palestine as a state just yet. The time is not right, but a lot of pressure coming from Angela Rayner and the backbenchers of his party to do so. And so it might be a bit of a clash between the two. Paul, where do you stand on this one as a Labour man?
Well, I believe the only way forward is a two-state solution, but that has to be a viable Palestinian state led by people who believe in democracy and the rule of law, alongside a secure Israel that can be absolutely confident no one's going to invade it, as we saw on the 7th of October. I mean, the way to get a ceasefire is very, very easy and simple. Is for the hostages to be released and for Hamas to lay down its arms, and there would be a ceasefire by tomorrow if they did those things. And they've shown no willingness to do either of those, as we know. 2/3 of MPs from all parties have said they would recognise Palestinian statehood now. Sorry, a third have, 2/3 haven't. Yeah, so a third have written a letter, 200 odd MPs have written this letter. But I think Starmer's correct that you can't just give something for nothing. If you are going to recognise Palestinian statehood, it has to be part of a package
where the Palestinians recognise Israeli statehood as well.
For a starter, and as part of a peace process. And I think just giving it away without any kind of nothing at all, and as Macron did, I think is wrong. And I'm also surprised the Israeli ambassador, I think quite rightly, I've met her and she's a very good ambassador, said it would look like that their terrorism was being rewarded. And I think that's the killer argument for me, because it does exactly that. It looks to the world like, okay, it's okay to invade and rape and murder and attack all those people at the music festivals.
Yeah, we'll
and
listen
all the
to you
rest
now.
of
We'll
it.
give you exactly what you want.
And now you get what you want. So that
But the problem is the underlying sentiment, isn't it, of the people who seem to seize control of the Gaza Strip is to want to destroy Israel. So you can't say a two-state solution. You get your state. If that person thinks that the neighbours shouldn't exist and they want to wipe them off the face of the earth.
Well, what will happen is we'll just have October the 7th again and again and again and again. Hamas are not going to stop. That's the point. So as long as Hamas are in Palestine, Israel will not be safe. I mean, today Israel have announced that there's a tactical pause to allow aid in. That's obviously, we've seen lots of pressure in the last couple of days to see that. So that's the difference. You've got Hamas on one side who still won't release all the hostages, many of which are dead. These are bodies sitting in tunnels that they won't even release back to families who can grieve. So that's on one side. And on the other side, you have Israel who are listening and saying, right, we'll have a tactical pause, let aid in to let this humanitarian crisis, settle a bit. But the point is that I do not see how Trump and Keir Starmer are going to see eye to eye. Keir Starmer is going to U-turn within a matter of weeks.
Do you think so? Do you think he will, Paul? Because,
I don't think it's a U-turn.
I don't think he will. People are saying Angela Rayner is going to put a load of pressure on him to recognise a Palestinian state. I would hope on this one he doesn't cave into it. I have a feeling he won't.
No, I think he's absolutely resolute on this, and he's taken an awful lot of heat, don't forget, over the last 2.5 years on this specific issue.
Already.
And Labour lost 3 or 4 seats over this in the general election to the pro-Gaza independents. He is taking the heat, but I think he knows the right thing geopolitically is to do what he's doing. And we're talking about the attacks on the 7th of October. The people in this country chanting, well, I won't repeat the chant, but it's about the IDF. That was the only thing that stopped Hamas from carrying on. If they could have killed every single Israeli, they would have done.
Oh, they would do it. Yeah, we had wonderful Lauren McEvatt in here earlier who made the very good point that I've heard before, that in some respects the worst enemy of Israel is the fact that they're so blimmin' good at defending themselves that they constantly look like the aggressor, despite having multiple missiles and rockets tossed into their country aimed at schools and nurseries on a regular basis. What on earth is Macron playing at, though? I mean, what is that?
Well, I love what Trump said in the sense of just don't pay attention to
he's a good man, but he's irrelevant.
We should do that more often, I think, with Macron. I think Macron is trying to be the first one out the gates, to start leading the international stage. Remember, he's got a political crisis at home as well. Can't run France at the moment. So,
Is this also because he might be feeling the heat at home? Because we think we might have things bad here, but actually, when you look at the old French colonies, a lot of North Africa, a lot of the Muslim world were French colonies. The French didn't treat him that well.
He's trying to get out the gates, start shoring up his strength, and I think now he's trying to lead the world. What he doesn't realise is he doesn't lead the world, and I think he needs to realise that pretty soon.
This is not much of a head-to-head because I agree, but it's the prism of domestic politics that he's doing this. It's nothing to do, and again, Trump is right to say it doesn't change anything. The whole world could say we recognise a Palestinian state, wouldn't change anything on the ground at all.
No.
So it's a gesture.
What's going on with the aid? I mean, look, everyone's got their conjectures. There's Bob Geldof banging on Israel's lying. They're deliberately starving to death the population. Israel says, no, we're not. We have got lots of aid. We want to get it out. We want to deliver it. We had to stop with UNRWA because UNRWA were basically enabling Hamas to war game this aid and use it. They want to see the population starve. Other people, the UN are saying, we won't work with Israel. We'll only work with Hamas. Make that make sense.
I mean, that's just...
Britain's like, we're going to fly in RAF planes and airdrop aid. Good, I'm all for that, but is that just going to be airdropped into the hands of Hamas? Are the Houthi rebels going to fire a missile at that RAF plane and then claim Israel did it? It's just such a mess. It's one big propaganda war with innocent people dying at the middle of it. But what do you think is going on here, Paul? I mean, this aid situation is baffling to me. Whose fault is it?
I mean, you can certainly understand why people get so emotionally upset by these scenes, because who wants to see starving children on the front page of their newspapers? It's horrific, and so we have a natural instinct, I think, a kind of an altruistic humanist response, but the situation is a political situation, and we know that Hamas withheld aid, and they collaborated with the aid agencies,
sold it for more.
And they sold it, and they used it as a power, brokering tool to the civilian population. And so, we've got to get the aid into the right people, but it can't be used to support the Hamas war effort, which is
what they're doing.
Are we right then saying we will have aid drops from RAF planes, or would you say don't get involved?
I think if it's as it is, I think now clear there are large sections of the civilian population on the brink of starvation. Of course we should. I mean, that is a humanitarian effort, as we would anywhere in the world where we had any kind of reach and influence. And because we have the bases on Cyprus, we can do this using RAF planes. But, it shouldn't, like I say, shouldn't then give Hamas a kind of extra few months of material to carry on with their war.
And the problem is, where, with these aid drops, where is the aid going to land? Who's going to be there to recover it? Who's going to be there to hand it out? And remember, if you just drop an aid drop into a middle of a starving village or town, there will be chaos, absolute chaos, and you'll see more people die as a result. It is a mess. You're completely right. Parliamentarians have been raising the fact that Hamas have been holding the aid almost hostage as well, holding it and selling it for profit. So as much as everyone can criticise the IDF for stopping trucks on the border, making sure that the trucks aren't going to Hamas, Hamas have got a responsibility as well, and that is always lost in this debate. People are very happy to criticise the Israelis, but no one seems to be wanting to keep criticising Hamas.
And something which is often missed out in the conversation is there's the biggest border with Gaza is Egypt. So what are they doing? Why aren't they taking the refugees?
The whole blimmin' neighbourhood don't do anything, do they?
No,
the Gulf states, they all turn a blind eye.
Anything to do with it.
I get the impression that a lot of them kind of want to see Gaza car parks so then they can just build shiny hotels on it.
But they certainly don't want lots of terrorists turning up into their countries. I mean, Egypt could, they could open the border, they could let the refugees in, they could supply aid.
This is literally the worst head-to-head ever. This is just like, let's agree on everything.
It's just
it's brilliant. It's actually really nice having intelligent conversation across all political divides and actually coming to the same conclusions. Right, we're going to take a little break now, and hopefully we will find something that they can fight over. I'm not sure, to be honest, because I think all of this is going to be consensus, but let's see what I'm going to find something. I'll do something to get them angry. Anyway, and the thing might be back as well if you're lucky. There it is. Right, okay, we're taking a short break now. I'm going to practice my shadow puppet manoeuvres in the meantime, and I'll see you on the other side.
Again, shocking but not surprising. I mean, I think one of the whistleblowers said there about, I think it was 70% of shoplifters in the West End are asylum seekers. I mean, there was also a man working in private security who said that his teams are at breaking points, and the area is verging on, you know, sorts of anarchy, lawlessness. Again, this isn't surprising.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back to the show. And I just want to say that Matthew was boasting about how he can say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's all very well, but if you actually... Exactly.
Oh, God, no,
Yeah.
I need to go back and watch it again. But it's got a PG rating now, I've heard.
It's got a PG rating, and this is what we're going to be discussing, because apparently there were various complaints made about films that were on telly box, and out of 224 complaints, it's not enough really, is it? 224, is that it? 56 were for Mary Poppins. And I was thinking, why? I love Mary Poppins. Is it because you've got to pick a pocket or two? Is that incitement to thief? Incitements for irregular shopping? See what I did there?
How many little cameos can we get in?
Oh, is it Oliver?
Yeah, afraid so.
Oh no, it's feed the birds, tuppence a bag.
Yeah. That's
Don't feed the birds. The migrants are just going to eat them. There you go. That's probably got a complaint. No, but this is all about a particular word which is used twice by the character Admiral Boom, who is the man who seems to think his house is a ship and yells at the weather as people go past. Now, I wasn't aware. I've seen the film Mary Poppins a gazillion times. You wouldn't think so, given that I just thought pick a pocket or two was in it, but never mind.
We're doubting that at the moment. It's fake news at the moment.
I know, fake news. It's 9 minutes to 9. I've been up since I don't know when, 1,000 years it feels.
The social media police will be coming after you now.
They are coming. They're coming. But no, it's because there's this. Are we allowed to say the word if we're referencing the word?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so sorry, Ofcom, I'm going to reference the word because this is a word that we're not allowed to say. It's Hottentots, which apparently he says it twice while yelling at the weather, which I wasn't aware of. I've never heard this word before. And this is what has sparked all of the complaints and given it a PG rating. Because all those under fives obviously know what that means and they're going to be triggered by it. But Paul, why? Why is this sort of...
Well, my dear late father, when he was a schoolboy, had very unruly hair, and he was dragged into the headmaster's office at his school in
not a problem you suffer
1948. From. Well, no, not him in later life. This is where I get it from. But he had hair at the time, and his head teacher said to him, "Richards, you look like a Hottentot." And my father said, "I don't know what that is." And he said, "Well, your punishment is to go off and go to the school library and get the encyclopedia and look up what a Hottentot is." So this is why part of our family law is that this is a Hottentot. Now, what it is, it's the colonialists' word for the people they found in southern Africa who are sort of pastoral nomadic people who use clicks in their language. The South African, so it sounded like Hottentot, you know, and it was like a caricature of the way they spoke, and this word became the colonialists' name for these people. Now, of course, the people themselves did not like that, and they did not like the sort of caricature of their language, and they don't like the word. So it appears in the film, he's referencing the blackened faces of the chimney sweeps, who he says look like Hottentots. So you can see, once you unravel it a little bit and just look at the detail, it is a bit offensive. It's of its time. It's, you know, obviously like all these movies in the 60s, you know, like Zulu or whatever else, you have to view it through the prism of the time it was made. But that's the rationale for saying, just be careful.
Don't use the H word.
Don't use this word, you know, in the playground against people. It's
Which
not
I think
a nice
we've racked up about 10.
I was just going to say, I can't wait for the complaints to come in.
I mean, well, Ofcom can do what they want on this, but that's the argument in favour of it. So there we are.
Didn't even know that it was in the film.
Well, you do
Didn't
now.
even pick up on it. You pick up on supercalifragilisticexpialidocious or whatever it is backwards, which I'll watch it later to remind myself. But it's the point of that's the things you pick up on the film, not that. And can we just stop trying to go back and censor, you know,
but it's
films
not being
in the past?
censored, is it? It's not being edited.
PG rating on a fun
It's just,
children's
it's just warning people it's there. That's all. They're not banning
But
Mary.
also
They're not banning Mary Poppins,
what
are they?
surprises me is the changing. What surprises me is the changing of the rating, because a U means anyone can watch it. A PG means you need your parent with you. Because, you know, like I said, all of those under 10s are there going, I'm so triggered by this historical reference to, colonial.
How many parents actually know what it means? And so we're watching and go, oh, I better explain to my kid what this... Well, good for you. I've had a really nice history lesson. But it's the fact of it's a word, it's thrown through...
Parental guidance. It's down to parents to decide whether they want to contextualise it or not.
I must say, in the context of all of this, David Austin, who is in charge of the BBFC, is a friend of mine, and he's a wonderful, sensible man indeed. So I just want to make that very clear, in case for whatever reason this clip circulates on television and David Austin goes, that Alex Phillips, I know her, she said that H word 10 times in her programme. Oh, she makes me work hard.
And still going strong, yeah.
Now, talking about I don't know what, let's talk about Jeremy Corbyn instead.
Yes, Grandad's back.
Because, you know, like I said...
Talking of racism.
Like Dan, the producer, was just saying, Mary Poppins and Magic Grandpa sounds like the schedule of CBeebies.
Could be the new name.
But Magic Grandpa has set up a new party called We Don't Know.
Insert
Party
name
McPartyface.
Voting McVoteface is the current contender.
Is it? I love it. I mean, that's just like sort of, established now in British folklore that it's got to have a McFace on it.
Absolutely.
But is this party going to be a threat? Because look, from my point of view, I've looked at it and I'm kind of excited by it for a number of reasons, and I'll lay them out. Reason number one is because if he's going to try and appeal to the Muslim voting bloc with his sort of pro-Gaza sentiments, I would actually, in some respects, rather it is him doing it than having a Muslim Party of Britain, which is sort of proper sort of sectarian voting, or indeed having Galloway come back, who I think is a bit thuggish and scary. So in some respects, to me, it's sort of opening the spigot and venting some of that political fury in a direction that I don't find too freaky. And also, hey, I'm a righty. I never mind when the left vote splits. But Paul, do you think this is going to go anywhere? They're boasting about all these subscriptions. Is it actually a political threat to the Labour Party, or might it actually be a sort of useful funnel for the far left, so to speak?
Good pop quiz, right? What do Arthur Scargill, George Galloway, who you mentioned, Ken Loach and Oswald Mosley, and now Corbyn all have in common?
They've got first names that no one christens their children with anymore.
They all tried to start a new left party, splitting from the Labour Party, saying that the Labour Party was terrible, we are the right guys to do this, and they all failed. And they failed, I think, for a very specific reason, which is the British public do not like extreme left political parties. If they did, each of these would have survived and thrived. We've got communist parties, we've got Trotskyist parties, we've got the Green Party.
The Communist Party of Great Britain and the Communist Party of Britain, and they're like mortal enemies.
Well, if you get six of these guys in a room, you get 7 parties, don't you?
So much for communism, everyone sharing everything together, can't even be part of the same party.
and that's why I'm not worried about this, because it will inevitably end in splits, because already some of these communist parties are entering the new party without a name. They're saying, well, we need more revolutionary politics. There'll be lots of well-meaning Guardian readers who've just clicked on that link and sort of signed up for something because they're a bit worried about Palestine or whatever, and they'll suddenly confront these hardline communists who want to take their house off them.
Who still shop at Starbucks.
And the whole thing will just descend into rancor and splits. I mean,
what's amazing is they already seem to be disagreeing, and there's just 2 of them.
We don't know what the name is. Can we just get one thing very clear? They do not have 500,000 members.
No, absolutely.
They have
rubbish.
500,000 people on an email list.
And many of them are Russian, and American, and people don't even live in the UK.
Can they stop gaslighting everybody by saying, look at us, 500,000, biggest party? No, you're not. Wait until you ask those commies to pay for it. They are not going to be paying. You'll maybe end up with 20,000, 50,000 at best.
It's basically...
it's utterly ridiculous. I can't wait for, what have we got? Fruitcake and nuts, or
fruit and nut party, Jezbollah.
My joke that I'm desperate to say is that they are the worst kind of muesli you can imagine. There's only one sultana and too many nuts.
Hey, and they're going to end up in the core dustbin of history, to quote his favourite man, Trotsky.
Absolutely. It's going to be ridiculous.
There we go.
So I don't think it's a worry. I mean, I think most of the votes, the churn will actually come from the Greens. The Greens, Zach Polanski's, if he's going to win the Green Party leadership, he's the one who's
some sort of sex therapist who talks about food?
He says
that's really creepy.
Pay me for some hypnotism and I can make
make your boobs bigger by the power of my mind.
That's
it's like,
him.
ooh.
That's him. Yeah, absolutely. So I think
he's going to be the leader of the Greens.
So hemorrhaging votes from him.
The state of Britain right now.
Which is why he wants to deal with this new party. But I think, you know, there's about 5% of the population who kind of broadly agree with all of this stuff. 95% of us don't. And it may cost 1 or 2 seats. I don't know, but it's not going to radically change our political system.
I can see a good slogan. You grow your marrows and your mammaries simultaneously. There you go. Magic Grandpa
this
and
is
what's
why you
this
get the big bucks, isn't it?
Joining forces for the radical left. Guys, thank you ever so much. Not so much fisticuffs, but really good political discussion. You've been an absolute pleasure. Paul Richards and Matthew Goodwin Freeman. Right, it is time for a little advert break. Like I said, got to prop up those migrants. And when I come back, there's still 1 more hour of news, views, fun and opining to come. We're going to be joined by the wonderful Peter Barnes. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you just after this.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People schmiggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another 2 grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back to the show. If you just saw me looking weird like that, I was checking my hair because my little earpiece has got a wire and I've just tied it around my plaits to make sure it doesn't keep falling out. Not that you needed to know that, but you know, the magic of television, ladies and gentlemen, the things you have to do to make sure you've got structural integrity of all the wires that you have to contend with. Anyway, welcome back or welcome aboard if you've only just tuned in. You've missed 3 hours of brilliant broadcasting, if I should say so myself. And if that is you and you think, blimey, I really wanted to hear the 6 till 7 hour, when Alex was banging on about the cheese roll and crop circles and Ducklington. You did miss out on some really good stuff. So you could go back to the beginning on YouTube, and I will keep you company, whatever you're doing on your Sunday, because we certainly had some interesting conversations. But don't you worry, because the fun is going to keep coming, because I'm joined by one of my favourites. He knows he is. He's looking with a smug little grin on his face. I don't think his face has any other setting but smug.
No, it doesn't.
It's like some people have a resting female dog face, but you've just got resting smug Russian face.
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, you do always strike me as somebody who, when you finish work, goes and sort of like, it works with the FSB on the side.
You're convinced I'm some kind of Russian oligarch, aren't you? Utterly convinced.
Not such an oligarch, one of those sort of like,
Men in the background.
Men in the background who's getting the brutes to go and burn things down.
I couldn't possibly comment.
Oh, there you go. There you are.
Comments
but
like
comment
that,
you will, because that's what we're paying you to do.
Yes, you are.
So comment away, would you?
Yeah.
Let's start off on Sir Keir Starmer. He's well, there you go.
There you go. Comment
done. Finished. Nothing to see here. Next story, please. No, but he is meeting President Trump today, in theory. I got some little stats last night on President Trump going to America, because he's gone to play golf at his golf course he's already got there in Aberdeenshire. And he's also opening another one in Ballymedy, I think it is.
Yeah.
And in order to make sure that the loonies of the left of Scotland don't go and make his little visit very uncomfortable and embarrass us, quite frankly, they're having to deploy 6,000 police officers at the cost of £3 million, which represents 1/3 of the entirety of Police Scotland.
Wow.
There you go.
That's incredible.
I didn't sleep last night. I was just getting facts.
Yeah, that's a good
Harvesting
fact, though. But also a devastating one, the fact that that's 1/3. I thought it would have been... Yeah, that's quite a staggering amount of people.
Don't go Diane Abbott on me.
No.
Pretending you know numbers of police when you don't.
No. It's just I thought there would be more, if I'm being honest, but... Again, it does say something that we have to deploy that many just to protect one person, just opening a golf course. I know he's the president of the United States, but it seems staggering to me that yet again we have to spend so much money when the left just lose their minds over nonsense.
Yeah, they always talk about the dangers of the far right, don't they? It's always the far left.
Yeah, and they're the ones because look at you've got all these hate marches here. We've got everything is always the left out on the streets. It's costing the taxpayer a fortune every time, and yet somehow it's far right thugs that we're supposed to be the most scared of.
What do you think is going to come of that little chit chat? Now we focused a little bit on the conversation about Gaza.
That's going to be the main
which I don't think people are saying that, but I don't think there's much. I think there's a fag paper between them on that. Well, because Sir Keir Starmer's dug his heels in and said, "I'm not going to recognise the state of Palestine until the time is right," which is the correct thing to do geopolitically. Yes, we're going to drop a bit of aid over Gaza, but we're not. America has still been quite resolutely lockstep with Israel because, well, that's always been the case. The UK's just sort of being nothingy on it.
Yeah.
Because this government don't want to sort of come out too in favour of Israel because that's scary for them in the Muslim vote. And also in the lefties who sort of see the starvation, the horror stories going on in the press there and sort of think this is terrible, we must do something about it. But also they kind of are not so stupid that they don't understand that the problem in Gaza is terrorists.
Well, see, I would agree with you to that last point because Keir Starmer may have dug his heels in, but, he's not in charge anymore. The backbenchers are. Angela Rayner
is 100%. They are in charge.
There's over 221 MPs have signed a letter demanding the recognition of Palestine. That, for a Prime Minister in his position, he can't ignore it. He's got to do something about it, so it's how far he's willing to go, to kind of appease that mob of recognising what is basically a terrorist state.
But if he doesn't, what's that mob going to do?
Well,
because it's not like they don't have Sir Graham Brady's to be wheeled out of the stationery cupboard to count envelopes.
Yeah, but what they
can
do is they can keep adding amendments to government legislation. So don't forget, we've got the Workers' Rights Bill, we've got the Renters' Rights Bill, all coming through Parliament.
So you could have Workers' Rights Bill, State of Palestine chucked in there.
Yeah, or what they'll do is they'll add other amendments to kind of either water down what Starmer wants, or they'll just keep piling on until basically the legislation ends up like it was with the welfare bill, and they have to capitulate on other issues. So that's what they'll do.
You've just put a story in my head which isn't on the run order, which we weren't going to discuss today. I know, like Dan just looked up at his computer through the glass like a rabbit in headlights. We're going to do a story that's not on the run order. It's not been prescribed. We've not discussed it. We're going to talk about this. Look at him, he's
Oh,
so
God,
scared.
the
He's
tension in this
scared.
studio.
No, you were talking about the welfare bill, and it made me think. I read a headline that the IMF have said to the government, basically, you're in trouble deep. You're going to have to either bin the NHS, increase taxes, but they actually said, and they said at the same time, but well done for sorting out the welfare. That didn't even happen.
I know.
So I'm like, how close are we to the charity check from Christine Lagarde?
Oh, we're literally a cigarette paper. We are so close. The economic situation this country is in cannot be underestimated or kind of written off. For years, we've been hurtling towards this because we've had low productivity, low growth, barely any kind of wage progression. It is absolutely ridiculous, the situation that we find ourselves in. And then you throw in COVID, where we just gave money away for like it was going out of fashion. Throw in, the chaos over the Brexit years. We are literally holding on for dear breath. I've started buying tinned goods. What's going to happen is going to make 2008 look like child's play. It is terrifying.
Talking about child's play and state handouts in the UK, I've got a new game to play on long car journeys.
Here we go.
Like people sometimes play the number plate game, or I used to get those books, those I Spy books. Do you ever have those? Like, if you see a cement mixer, it's 20 points, and you tick it off with a little photograph. Yeah. Well, there's a new game you can play, which is called Motability. Because the Motability scheme is sort of like, is it like 1 in 5 cars on our roads is being given to someone for free for a medical condition, including constipation. Next time you're stuck in a traffic jam, look around you and try and figure out who's got the medical condition and the free car and what it might be.
That's good. Yeah.
There you go. That's a great one to make a long car journey more interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, are they cutting that? That's of all the headlines of, this person's got a free car because they've got ADHD. This person's got a free car because they can't poo. I always bring that one up because it's the funniest.
Because it's the funniest one, but it also shows the absurdity of the situation.
Has the government not gone, well, that's mad, we're going to scrap the Motability scheme then?
Well, I feel like for the government, it's one of those, once they pull back one thing, they sort of realise that all of it will unravel and they'll have to start cutting everything, which they evidently can't do because their own party won't allow it. This is the ridiculousness that we find ourselves in, that actually the entire situation cost us more money than we are actually planning to save. It's just a farce, but again, when you've got a party that's not willing to make the tough decisions, but is going to get up in front of you and lie to you and say that we made the tough decisions, what do we expect is going to happen when, we end up in economic situations where even the IMF are going to have to come bail us out again?
A lot of people are playing up the threat of Angela Rayner to Keir Starmer. I mean, she's a scary woman, isn't she?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to meet her down a dark alleyway when she's had 12 WKDs and wants to give you a socialist rant. Ooh. Oh, no one wants that. But actually, the thought
I found
of
a new ring of hell.
The thought of her running the country is actually quite terrifying. It's almost like the Fast Show has taken on a new political chapter. But people keep playing up this idea that she's a threat, she's a threat, she's a threat. Is she?
I don't think she is. I think she's more of a willing puppet to other people that will pull the strings. I think there's a lot more. Do you know how the Conservative Party have the men in the grey suits? I think the Labour Party have these kind of ultra kind of...
The unions,
basically. Because that's what she is. She is the kind of person in the Labour Party. They kind of grit the teeth through Starmer because they saw him as a willing instrument to get into power. They knew, and as we all did, that he's not going to survive, but she might be the one to continue. So they backed her to the hilt. But let's not forget that I think it was GMB put £10,000 behind her campaign, despite not backing the Labour Party at the last
GMB,
yeah, one of the trade unions.
Yeah. Not Good Morning Britain.
Good Morning Britain.
We just need to make that absolutely
just
clear.
To make that clear. But this is the thing. They've always seen her as the next Corbyn kind of figure, and it's interesting now he's popped back up on the scene how that relationship is going to kind of play out. But I don't think that she's the threat. I think it's the people that are pushing her forward are the threat, because they have much more radical views than even Starmer does, and it concerns me greatly that she's either she's a willing participant or she's blindly going along with it and she's no idea what's happening. And it could be a bit of both.
This is the thing with the legacy parties, isn't it? When you've got a Conservative government who tax centrists to try and get the biggest cohort of votes as possible under a first past the post system, the bee in their bonnet, their bugbear, or the bee bonnet bugbear backbenchers. Wow, I'm doing really well for 12 minutes past 9. tonight, can I just say?
Well done.
Congratulations to myself. But their bugbear, always the backbenchers who want to bang on about Brexit. Still doing it, you see?
Done.
My
Bravo.
confidence is on fire.
Yeah,
it's almost like I'm beatboxing the headlines today. Yeah. But their problem is the backbenchers who want the party to tack further to the right. When you've got a Labour government, their problem is often the backbenchers who want to tack further to the left. And when you're broke as a country, which we are right now, and desperately need to cut the size of the state, desperately need to cut welfare, even though we've still got the highest taxation we've had since World War II, that oft-quoted fact, they're going to have to get money from somewhere. It's almost like you're in the roller coaster to oblivion. It's like, well, you know, for this government to survive, is it going to have to pander to the forces that actually think there's a magic money tree?
I think, unfortunately, it's going to have to, because politically it doesn't have a choice. But I will say that actually the people who are most responsible for this are actually the electorate. And I don't like to blame the people, but unfortunately...
But a lot of them didn't vote Labour.
But over the last, I'd say, 30 years, when a politician got up and said, we probably can't afford this, they got voted out of office. We never actually listened to people for the last 30 years who actually said, we can't afford this, we've got to pull back. They got voted out, they got ignored. We became very greedy as a nation, became very hand out, not hand up. And I don't like to quote Blair, but I think that's a really good point that he always made, that our culture became very entitled. And the welfare...
Self-indulgence. We became very relaxed. We're a G7 nation, we can afford it. Oh, we can put the migrants in the hotels, and we can give you 5 months off work if you happen to be triggered by Mary Poppins, you know, all that
kind
stuff.
of thing. Yeah, and it's the same, like, you look at the migrant crisis as a prime example. The government's reaction to it is only encouraged by the public for a long time, saying, yeah, bring them in, refugees welcome, all this kind of stuff that dominated the headlines, it dominated the media. Of course the government was going to do this. It was kind of undeniable, but now we suddenly realise, oh, wait, we can't do it. That kind of 180 is such a kind of massive turn that, you know, the public is all over the place on it.
Now let's go back to Trump and Starmer, because in my spare time I sometimes do a little bit of American media. They like a voice from Britain from time to time on their channels. And so they've been asking me over the course of the last few days of the trade deal between the UK and the US, what we've got already, what we might have going forward. And I've often made the point that there was, at the very beginning, when Starmer first met Vance and Trump, there is a strict instruction, no free trade without free speech. And I find it very noteworthy that Donald Trump touches down in Scotland and the first thing he says is, you've got to do something about the invasion of migrants. Europe is destroying itself. You've got to get a grip on this situation. I wonder, in the sort of interlocution that the pair have later on today, whether this is reinforced, because looking at some of the headlines that we've got in our newspapers, she says, desperately trying to find one that actually reflects what I'm trying to talk about.
Can never find the newspaper that you need.
You know, police units, there we go, police units to monitor anger over migrants. I wonder if Mr. Trump will have seen the Telegraph this morning and might bring up to Sir Keir Starmer, because it seems to me he's intent on doing so.
Oh, without a doubt.
If it's the first thing you've said when your plane touches down, that is your core message to this nation.
Yeah, it's not a hi, it's great to be here. It's what are you doing? And that has always been what the US administration has been. Every time they've come to you, whether it be Vance, Trump, or whoever, has been, you've got to sort yourselves out. That is very much the kind of the White House message. And if you look, go back to the Munich defence speech that Vance gave, where he basically said to Europe, get yourselves in order. What are you doing? Russia is on your doorstep and you're running around trying to define what a woman is. Get it together. And I think it has worked brilliantly, whether, you know, critics of Trump admit it or not, you know, that actually Europe has kind of stepped up, and this is yet again another...
On the Ukraine thing,
but also just to rearm themselves, to actually realise that the world isn't everybody holding hands and singing Kumbaya.
I mean, Trump has done phenomenal things when it comes to illegal migration. He's brought it down to basically zero. I wonder if, you know, as a favour to us, as part of a free trade agreement, it's going to be like, right, if you let us sell American beef into your market, we'll also send you Tom Homan to growl on the white cliffs of Dover at Dees.
When it comes to the free trade agreement, though, I think the one thing Trump will be bringing up is, what do you think you're doing recognising EU standards? Because which under the latest thing that we've got to, because that means that it's going to have big questions over access of American imports into the UK because of how that deals with the EU.
Yeah.
That is a clash waiting to happen. How anybody has agreed to this situation, I don't know, but it is one to keep our eye on because the Americans will not be happy.
No, I know. It'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall in that conversation.
I'd love to be in that.
Trump always says how much he likes Starmer, but that's because, let's be fair, watching Starmer around Trump is actually makes you want to vomit in your mouth a bit. I love the Donald, but Starmer's basic trembling hand reaching into his pocket to get out the
I think that's the thing. He loves the fact that he's so deferential to him. And I think that's what he actually likes.
But actually, they've read the room when it comes to foreign politics. It's like, Mandelson, who knows how to creep around and look obsequious.
Master of the dark arts.
Master of the dark arts. And basically said, you've got to get down on your knees and lick your shoes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you ain't getting knout from America. And America can't be ignored, can it?
No, of course it can't.
I mean, there's no way it can.
Yeah, and Europe thinking that it's somehow entitled to be in the room in all these kind of meetings when it comes to Gaza or when it comes to Ukraine or whatever. Oh, just be quiet. You pandered around for too long with vanity projects. America, this was needed. We can talk about humanitarian crisis all we like, but it was the West that it developed this situation by pandering to terrorists for most of the time, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it, that actually when it comes to geopolitics, and Sir Keir Starmer's much happier, isn't he, going around on the international stage talking about geopolitics than he is trying to deal with matters at home, because we're broke and his party's full of extreme leftists. So that's basically, like we said, totally incompatible things, which is going to make any Prime Minister's head hurt significantly. But if he can talk about big crises everywhere else, the Schadenfreude are saying, well, at least, we're not getting bombed right now, is where he feels at his most cosy. And I get the impression that actually there isn't a great deal of difference anymore between Starmer and Trump when it comes to geopolitics, that the Western alliances are actually back in good working order because, of course, America, like you were alluding to, has suddenly gone, Putin, bad news, we will actually help Ukraine after all.
I think that realisation that Russia was never going to be the kind of reasonable person at the negotiating table has been pretty hard for the White House. Well, some elements of it, but I do think that Trump's comments on Putin and the kind of the tone change has been notable. And how he talks about him, and also how he's talked about Israel as well. Whilst obviously still a great friend to Israel, I think he's become a lot more critical, especially when it came to the business with Iran. I think it's a kind of, that when he started to swear about them in front of the press, I was like, that is a man who is very annoyed.
That is a man who is a little bit cross.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back after the break, we're going to be joined by the Conservative councillor for Epping Forest to find out what is going on down there and whether the mood of the neighbourhood is changing at all. That's after this.
Nothing. And I've been told, I've not been told how the Matrix or how they just come to their decision. I've not been told whether my human rights have been considered as part of the decision-making process. As I say, they received my complaint in full. They received the council officers their point in full, and they made a decision based on that. But they had a several-hour meeting, and during that whole process, they weren't able to cross-question. So they didn't have the ability to ask me questions, or if they had an opinion, they couldn't clarify that opinion.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back. You'll be pleased to know during the advert break we've just decided on inventing a new game. So earlier on I said I got told off for gesticulating too much because when I do, my hand appears in front of the other camera and it looks weird. There it is, thing is here. So during the next advert break we're going to pretend we're like one of those fairground machines where you have to grab the toy and I'm going to try and sort of go above and grab Pete's head. Yeah. So there you are, the fun we have while you're waiting for us to come back. Right, now talking about fun, I don't think they're having much of that down in Epping Forest, are they? Protests galore. I think they're still going on. Let's speak now to Holly Whitbread, who's Conservative councillor down in Epping Forest. I mean, it seems to me that you might be successful in having the Bell Hotel shut down, but it also seems to me that an RAF base near Epping, which already has 800 young men resident there, could be boosted to 1,200. I mean, it doesn't feel like much of a win.
No, I mean, obviously it's been really concerning scenes in Epping in recent weeks, and I understand local frustrations completely. The council have for many months been calling for the closure of the Bell Hotel, and actually we are at tipping point. It's untenable for the hotel to remain open, but obviously this doesn't solve the wider immigration and illegal immigration crisis in our country.
As a councillor, what are your constituents talking to you about this subject? Because what's been in national media, we all know about the one particular inmate from Ethiopia who 8 days after arriving was apparently allegedly accosting a 14-year-old girl. 3 women came forward and said that he had been a bit of a sex pest, ended up in front of the magistrates. We all know about that, but have there been further problems that have been taking place for a number of months, if not years?
Yes, so just a couple of months ago, one of the residents of one of the other hotels just up the road in Epping Forest as well was accused of arson, moved to the Bell Hotel, and they were arrested and charged for arson. So there have been a number of concerns around the Bell Hotel. We actually managed to get it closed down after years of pushing under the last government, and then it was only reopened earlier this year. And actually the bigger problem when it was reopened earlier this year was the fact it was all males in there. We didn't have any transparency from the government about how many were in there. We were just told it was reopening despite our considerable local concerns.
Now I want to go back to this arson thing, because my understanding, I think I came across this story, wasn't it an arson attack against the hotel he was actually staying in?
Yeah, it was a really awful incident. So it was an arson attack where he was staying. Obviously, they didn't know it was him who committed it. They moved him into the Bell Hotel and he tried to commit arson again.
Why? Why is he trying to burn down the hotel that the taxpayers are going, well, I suppose you don't know because you're not him, but that's a crazy thing.
I understand it's an ongoing investigation, but it's dreadful. It doesn't make any sense to me. And actually in that other hotel were a mixture of families as well, which is why in our motion to council we called for the managed closure of that hotel rather than the immediate closure, which is what we've asked for with the Bell.
With the with the number of male migrants that are all in the Bell Hotel in Epping, how has that changed, the streets and the look and feel of Epping? Is it very noticeable if I were to go down to Epping and walk down the high street that you've got a load of these young migrant men in your town?
It is noticeable. I mean, I've lived in Epping my whole life, and I don't think people necessarily have a problem if people are being peaceful. But obviously, we saw this dreadful incident. But it is noticeable, particularly in a hot summer. The hotel's right on the edge of the high street, most concerningly, right close to a local school. But obviously, it has changed somewhat the feel of the town.
And I mean, local residents have had enough. They're protesting. Are the protests still taking place?
So we're expecting another protest today. We don't know the full extent of that. Originally, there were rumours that Tommy Robinson was going to come. Let me be clear, Tommy Robinson is not welcome in Epping. Most of the local people that I talk to, they don't mind peaceful protest, but actually they don't like the way these protests often turn sour. It's not the kind of it's not what we expect. It's not what we usually have in Epping. And while the local people have a really strong feeling that this hotel should close, they don't like the disruption to their life and any violence, which it has been encouraged by extremists on both sides of the political spectrum.
I mean, my understanding is, having seen videos on social media, that he has sort of come to the conclusion that he doesn't want to go to Epping because he doesn't want things to get volatile. He doesn't want this to sort of turn into anything bigger and more explosive than it is. What do you make of the behaviour of Essex police, though, escorting counter-protesters into the heart of the protest?
I think the police have an incredibly difficult job. Obviously, they've got to let both sides have their right to protest. As much as I disagree with the far left, they have to facilitate protest for the safety of other Epping residents as well. Obviously, they've come into a lot of criticism. They've worked to defend themselves, and I do think they've got an incredibly difficult job. And obviously, it's not the kind of situation they'd usually have to manage in a small suburban town.
I mean, most people out there in the country, God bless Epping Forest, but most people may not have even heard of it. But you kind of have become the centre of a political debate now, a political football, if you will. How does that feel?
Yeah, I said when I gave my speech to full council when we were calling for the closure of the hotel, it's like we've become the epicentre of the illegal immigration debate. So obviously it's not what we want our town to be in the headlines for, but local people have a very strong feeling that this hotel should close, and that point is certainly being made. And I hope the good thing that comes out of us being in the headlines is that the government listen and close this hotel.
I mean, if they do close the hotel and some of the residents are moved to the RAF base 30 miles away, is that going to alleviate the problem? Or do you think that those young men might get on buses and come and still loiter around and, you know, see what sort of talent is coming out the school gates, for want of a better turn of phrase?
Well, I think it would probably solve our problem here in Epping if they were moved away, and we have really strongly called for that closure. But obviously it doesn't solve the wider issues, and I'd be sorry to see it moved just onto another community. I mean, the real thing here is that the government need to get a grip. They promised us they were going to close these hotels within a couple of months of them being in power. They were reopened. I mean, obviously, you know, my party aren't covered in glory over the way we managed the illegal immigration crisis, but it did look like Rwanda was being some detraction. So we just need the government to get a grip. We need strong action, whether that's leaving the ECHR. We need to stop this illegal immigration crisis so no community has to deal with this.
I mean, I've been sent something by a friend of mine who was forwarded on an email from a particular housing association. It's all related to this idea that instead of having migrants in hotels, they're going to be dispersed around the community. And he sent me essentially something that's from one of these associations responsible for this, and it's got a traffic light system of where these private residences need to be acquired in order to house migrants. And on it, you've got Gloucester, which is where I'm from, which is a big red colour. So no, we're not looking for properties in Gloucester to house migrants at this time. There's amber, which is we might need a few properties here. And then there's other councils where they've got green lights. And I noticed on the list was Epping. As a councillor, are you now having to try and find private accommodation? How do you feel about the idea that instead of being in a hotel, there might be houses of multiple occupancy instead?
So I was the Cabinet for Housing for 5 years, so it's an area I've got quite a good knowledge on. As far as I'm concerned and aware, we haven't been approached by the government about this yet. Obviously, if that was the case, it would be completely unacceptable. I mean, one of the differences would be actually, as terrible as the Bell Hotel is, and as much as we want it closed, we're not paying for the Bell Hotel. The Home Office is. The council have already got incredible financial pressures, and funding for housing comes out of the main general fund. I would also say there's over 1,000 people on the Epping Forest housing waiting list. So there's so many local people who need affordable housing, and actually many people in temporary accommodation who need more permanent accommodation. So it just would not be right for Epping Forest. You know, we often, it happens with funding as well. We're a relatively affluent district, although we've got pockets of deprivation. And I think this Labour government feel like they can just dump on us. And this is not fair. You know, we've got our own problems here, and it is not right.
Holly, thank you ever so much for joining me. That's Holly Whitbread, Conservative Councillor for Epping Forest. Very quickly before we go to break, Pete. I mean, I think the idea, migrant hotels are an absolute abomination, but I think putting them in houses of multiple occupancy is worse.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because I think Holly made the right point, though, is that it has become the epicentre of this entire debate, and that is exactly why the Bell Hotel will not close. Because you don't think it will? It won't, because the government can't afford it to, because what this will show is you protest enough, we'll shut down the hotel. That would absolutely collapse this entire system, and they can't afford for that to happen.
Actually, it'd probably invite more protests. That's a very, very good observation.
And that's my big fear about this. And, you know, we're talking about the police. As far as I'm concerned, BJ Harrington, the head of the police there, needs to resign or be fired. I would actually prefer him to be fired. I know that's a rarity in the UK these days.
No one gets fired for doing a bad job.
Him putting those more left-wing activists in the middle of that protest was clear agitation. It put people in harm's way and merely escalated the situation. It was stupid beyond belief, and he's got to go. He is a major problem to the safety of that area.
There you are. The Barnes has spoken. Right, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we're going to be catching up with a farmer from the gorgeous part of the UK, Exmoor, about the fact, and this is tragic, a record number of farms have now shut due to inheritance tax. That's what we'll be discussing after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and welcome back to the show. Now, some pretty alarming statistics in today's Telegraph, because a total of 6,365 agriculture, forestry and fishing businesses, basically stuff in the farming sector, have closed over the past year. That's according to the Office for National Statistics. It is the highest since data was first published in 2017. The majority of these closures took place the first 6 months of the year after Rachel Reeves announced that she would cut the amount of inheritance tax relief to family farms. Meanwhile, just 3,190 businesses in the sector have been set up in the same period, which leaves a net loss of 3,175, which basically means that farms are disappearing at the fastest pace on record. A terrible thing for farmers, a terrible thing for food security, I would argue, as well. Let's speak now to James White, who is himself a farmer in wonderful Exmoor. Good morning to you, James. I bet you're the only person whose alarm went off earlier than mine today. Hard-working men that you are out there in our fields. How bad is it? How tough is it in this day and age to be a farmer?
Well, I mean, this is a family tragedy for 6,000 family farms and fishermen across the country. But this is a disaster for the country. This is our national security we're eroding, because food security is national security. So this is a tragedy for farms up and down the country. But this is bad for everybody, you know, and that is the real worry.
Yeah, no, I always oft quote the statistic that 60% of our food comes from the UK and 40% is imported. And whenever you've got a disruption to supply chains, whether it's Russia invading Ukraine and then wheat and fertiliser and cooking oil can't get to where it needs to be, or the Houthi rebels attacking cargo ships, bringing stuff in from abroad, you can find yourself in big trouble, and all of a sudden there's a run on the supermarkets, not just for bog roll, but for everything else. And it makes no sense to me. But what also breaks my heart is I always think that British farming is the part of the backbone of our culture and our legacy. We have some of the highest standards of animal welfare, a pastoral way of farming, and that actually an attack on farming is basically an attack on Britishness.
Yeah, I mean, 70% of the country's landmass is managed by farmers. So the countryside looks the way it does, our country feels the way it does. It's because of the farmers that have stewarded these farms for generations. I mean, the farm that I'm on, we own it as part of it, we own part of it, but the families around us have been here for hundreds of years, and they're the ones that are going to struggle to pay this tax, because the thing that many of your listeners might not know is profitability in farming is not connected to the value of the land. So land has gone up, not through the fault of the farmers, but profitability remains low because food is freely and cheaply available, which means they're not able to pay Labour's disastrous family farm tax. And like I said, this is a family tragedy. I mean, we've already had one farmer so shockingly take their life, but he won't be the last. There will be other people thinking over the next 6 months that if they die before the 1st of April, there is no inheritance tax liability, and if they die after, there is. And that is a tragic choice that the government is making family farmers choose. It is a choice. They are the ones that put this policy in. It's only going to generate £500 million. The National Farmers Union has given another option for them, and they could take that. It will generate more money and not put this terrible burden.
What is that option? Tell me about it.
So they've put in a clawback. So the idea is that what we want to stop is people speculating on land. It's why land has gone up so much in value. And what the National Farmers Union has suggested is that if you die, an inheritance tax liability is created. But if you don't sell your farm, if your children don't sell that farm, it never has to be paid. But if you do sell your farm, then you rightly so pay that tax, which I think seems very fair.
So if it stays for agricultural use, if those fields are going to be ploughed, or become pastoral for cattle or whatever, then fine, it stays at farm, no tax paid. But if you think you want to make £1 million by selling off your land to a housing development company, you are going to have to pay the price.
Exactly that. And the National Farmers Union, the Countryside Landowners Association went to go and see Rachel Reeves' team. Rachel Reeves wouldn't meet with them, went to go see the team, suggested this, and they didn't take it. And this would have solved the problem. The National Farmers Union even said it would generate more money over the long-term period, but they wouldn't do it because this is an ideology. This has been Labour's long-term plan to get hold of the countryside, to break up these family farms. It's not about raising money, and that's a tragedy. This is not a policy that will benefit the country long term. And like I said, it's a family tragedy. There are 6,000 family farms that have now gone, but this is bad for the country, because it's our food security that's at risk. Your food will become more expensive in 10 years' time because of this policy.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Why would anybody want to do that? I mean, do you worry, actually? Look, I'm a Brexiteer. I'm all for trading with the rest of the world. I think that's a fantastic thing, but I am worried on behalf of farmers if we start importing cheaper foreign meat that doesn't uphold our standards, that isn't as good a quality, that we cannot guarantee its provenance, and sacrifice our own farming on that. Because I'm a big believer in always buying British. I would rather pay more for my food, and I know that a lot of struggling families might not share that sentiment, but I think we've become very unrealistic about the cost of food.
I mean, we used to spend a third of our income on food, and now we spend 10%. And I don't think anyone's suggesting that we should return to that's a large amount of our income being spent on food. But what we must have in trade deals is equivalence of standards. So if it's illegal to produce here, it should be illegal to import here. And at the moment, we don't have that. I'll give you an example. Oilseed rape, where we have neonicotinoid seed dressings, are banned in the UK, but they're not banned internationally. And we import a lot of oilseed rape, and it's using these bee hurting pesticides, and what farmers want is equivalence. If it's illegal to produce here, it should be illegal to import here, and that would protect our industry and protect domestic production.
James, I got to ask, what's on your farm? What have you got?
We farm beef, sheep and children, and they're the ones that woke me up at 5 o'clock this morning, not the cows.
Beef? I was like, beef, children?
Children?
Do you know what, Jay, you're lucky, because I've always fancied being a farmer's wife, but I was just saying to Peter, I don't think I could be a farmer. I don't eat, don't be angry at me, but I don't eat beef, because I used to live in India and I really love cows. I'd be a terrible...
Well, we've just signed a trade deal with India, and apparently we're going to sell lots more lamb to them, which is really exciting.
Well, there you go, yeah, because they don't eat beef over there, sacred cows and all that. And I must admit, I'm just about to move to Gloucestershire, and there's loads of fields of cows around me, and while I think that's magical because I love cows, I'll be going like, don't kill them, don't send them to the abattoir. They're so beautiful.
A quick question?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, James, you mentioned there that Rachel Reeves wouldn't meet with the team from the National Farmers Union. How on earth can this move forward if the Chancellor won't meet with farmers? We're looking really at the breakdown of trust mainly at this situation. One side's accusing the other of God knows what, and yet when the Chancellor refuses to meet it, so she sends a delegation, I think that is a real sign of this dragging on for a lot longer than farmers can afford it to, really.
Well, I mean, we are ramping up for more protests. And the farmers are out in fields at the moment, bringing in the harvest, and they will be back in London. They'll be following the government very closely. This is not over because the stakes are so high. If you have owned a farm for generations and you lose that family farm, that is your legacy gone, and the stakes are so high. This is not over. This is going to drag on.
We did notice the pun there as a beef farmer saying the stakes are so high. We liked that. Yeah. It put a smile on our faces, James. It's been fantastic talking to you. Look, if you ever have a cow that doesn't make the cut, so to speak, rather than send him off to just be disposed of, I'll have him. I love cows so much. I've always wanted a pet cow. See, I'd be terrible if I come down to your farm. I'd be like, don't kill them, James.
Yeah, don't name them.
Yeah, don't maim them. Let them all live. Anyway, I'm sure you do a wonderful job and treat your bovines beautifully. And we do need incredibly hardworking farmers like you. And I support your industry to the hilt. I will always back British farming. So well done you. Thank you for joining us today, James White, Exmoor farmer there. Farmer of beef, sheep and children.
And children. I love how we both looked at each other and say,
whoa!
Yeah, we're just like, is that a thing that we don't know? It is a technical term.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, there is a very big football game this evening, so we're going to get the latest on what might happen, because guess what? A English football team is in the final of something. Who'd have thunk? That's after this.
Now, communities are suddenly realising that what is happening, and there's evidence to back it up. There are communities are being torn apart, and so they're taking it into their own hands because, like you say, I think the police are basically protecting every left winger going. Let's not forget we had one officer who said, "Oh, those books look a bit Brexity," when he raided somebody's home.
Yeah, he had a copy of the Spectator, which they said was suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insanity. But the police have always got this wrong because they keep thinking it's their job to defend the right to protest. It's not.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back to the show, and we have now got some sporting news for you because today it is the final, isn't it, of the Euro football competition. What do you call it? You can tell I'm not a sports person. You see that Pete Barnes was hot-footed out the studio the minute the word sport was said. He's like, get me out of here. I've got no idea how to talk about it. To be honest, I'm not much better. It is the Lionesses facing Spain today in the final of Euro 2025. Let's now speak to Uma Gaurav, TalkSport, a reporter, about what might be in store. Uma, people sort of think that we got there on a whim and a prayer, really, that the Lionesses might have been rather lucky with some pretty miraculous last-minute goals, and therefore Spain are the favourites. Is that the kind of gist?
Look, don't get me wrong, Spain are an incredible team, and England know that all too well. They were beaten by Spain in the 2023 World Cup final, complete heartbreak then. But since then, England have come on leaps and bounds as well. They've beaten Spain since then in the Nations League. And not to mention back in 2022 when they won the whole thing, of course, they did beat Spain on the way. So yes, while Spain are a great team, England won't be going into this seeing themselves as the underdogs. They'll be going in thinking we're the defending champions. It's Spain who have to come and take this off us. And I know that it's been tough for England fans. I mean, we thought we were out in the Sweden penalty shootout. I don't understand how we got through that. And then, of course, against Italy, it was even closer, it seemed. 96th minute equaliser from Michelle Adjumang. 19 years old she is. I mean, it's incredible the way that they've got here, the resilience that they've shown, even getting beaten by France in the first group game. The journey has been tough, but I think in some ways it's just shown you that England are never done. These Lionesses are never finished. They're going to find a way, and I truly believe that they're going to find a way today.
There's been a lot of whining, hasn't there, from football supporting men about, the women's game, it's not very good, I wouldn't watch it if it's women playing. But it seems to me that more and more the country are becoming completely bewitched by the Lionesses because, unlike the men, they seem to be able to win things.
This is their third consecutive major final. They are an incredible team. I mean, you only have to look at them on the pitch. I know, like you said, there's been some difficult performances and they haven't perhaps been at their best. But surely that should just prove to you that even when England aren't at their best, the Lionesses make it through to finals. And with Sarina Wiegman at the helm, who, is closing in on a third Euros title, that's incredible. She's already won one with England. She won one with the Netherlands. She's never been to a Euros that she hasn't won. And I think she will go in today thinking we can do this again. And you have to look at, I think, the resilience that this team have showed. They face so much criticism. They must hear all this noise about people saying they're not good enough. They should have been better in this. They've just blocked all of that out and they've gone, we're just going to focus on our job here. We know how good we are. I can see Chloe Kelly on the screen at the moment. I mean, the resilience that she has had to come through and to score some incredible late goals, the scenes there, that's all they want. And I think today that they'll just see it as one game. Yes, maybe Spain are the better team on paper, but for England, they've done this before. They've won the Euros before. They've beaten teams who should have beaten them on paper before. And that's all that there is to it.
What is it about Super Sabrina that means she is so successful? Is it because, I mean, I don't know anything about football. I just hoover up bits of things I hear other people say, nick them and put them in the bank in case I have to use them. But I think someone was sort of saying to me that she actually really holds her nerve and doesn't sort of automatically sub people off and thinks, you know, it's getting towards the end of the match. You've got a last bit of wind left in you. You want to prove yourself, and that's possibly the best motivation to go out there and score goals.
I mean, if you want another phrase to say for the bank, in Serena we trust. That's what we always say when things are starting to get a bit hairy and every single fan thinks we've got to make a sub right now. And then Serena Wiegmann suddenly makes it at the right time and they come out and score, and actually we do get through to the next round. But it's this thing about impact subs. I think there has been a lot of discussion about whether or not she's making changes too late. She only made changes, well, the change that kind of turned the game around for us in Italy came in the 85th minute, with only 5 minutes of normal time left to go, which doesn't seem like enough. But for Serena Wiegmann, I think she's trying to find out at what point are the other team tired enough that by bringing on fresh legs for us, that kind of gives us the biggest impact. I don't expect it to be as late as 85 minutes today. I think every single England fan will just be completely losing their mind if it's that late today. But certainly, I think when we're talking about the starting lineup and whether she's going to bring in new players, I don't think it's going to change. She's going to bring on the likes of Michelle Adjemang, Chloe Kelly, Aggie Beaver-Jones, Beth Mead, all of these huge players. I think she'll save them, keep them in her locker, try and hold Spain, make sure they don't score, and then hit them with our bench talent really kind of in the second half, hopefully midway through the second half. Hopefully we'll find the goal and it doesn't go to extra time, it doesn't go to penalties, because I don't think any of us can handle that again. But yeah, let's just see, because I think knowing the talent on both sides here, we could be in for a long final.
Now, people on Sunday who might think, do you know what, England's in a final, I want to watch that, I want to be shouting at my television screens and cheering our nation's football team on. How can we watch it? What time is it on?
It's at 5 p.m. today, but the build-up will start a lot before that. Certainly on talkSPORT, we're building up the whole afternoon. They're already building up to it. We've got a show on 2 to 4 p.m. live from Box Park. That's where I'll be. We'll be chatting to fans, hearing from former Lioness Leanne Sanderson. Of course, the game is on terrestrial TV as well. I think it's being shown both on BBC and ITV, but we've also got coverage on talkSPORT, and that's where you really want to be, because the team out in Basel have been fantastic the whole way through. So yeah, whether you want to watch the Lionesses, listen to the Lionesses, both maybe, but yeah, who knows, it might just come home again.
Yeah, there you go. Have the pictures on your screen, but mute it so you can listen to talkSPORT while doing it, because that's where the best commentary is going to be, without a doubt. If you're anything to go by, lovely Uma, then you really are the cream of the crop. Wonderful, Uma. Thank you ever so much, and good luck to our Lionesses. You know, I'm not a football fan. I'm from a place where rugby is key. But I'm going to watch this evening because, you know, who doesn't want to support our nation? Also, I'm packing up my house. I need something to shout about instead of boxes and bubble wrap. Right, let's vent some pressure, shall we, by speaking to you guys out there, because Danny in London is on the line. He's been holding very patiently. Good morning, Danny.
Good morning. About your idea thing about Yvette Cooper making it illegal to have more than 80 people in a boat. Well, number one, who is she going to prosecute? Right. And number two, isn't it illegal already to come over in the boat?
Well, this is the mad thing. In theory, it sort of makes the punishment even bigger. You know, if you're going to go to prison, you might go to prison for even longer because there are more people on your boat. But that's just mad. Can you imagine a people trafficker sitting there going, do you know what, we better only put 79 on in case Yvette Cooper finds us?
It's just publicity, isn't it? They're not going to do anything.
No, it's absolutely crazy. Like I said, what's the next thing she's going to do? Is she going to, like, demand there are seat belts and, you know, water bottles and safety regulations being followed?
But what are they going to do? How are they going to stop it? It can't go on forever. We can't have enough hotels to put them in the end, are we?
Well, no, that's very clear. I mean, look, like I said, there's clearly a lever that can be pulled if it's a real emergency. We've seen how much governments can do, which seems to be against common sense and public will during COVID. Well, this is common sense and this is public will, and they really need to get on and do something, because it's actually quite useful that they're beginning to talk amongst themselves about the power of the protests, about how upset the general public are.
Well, let's just hope so, or else it's going to get completely out of control, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, Danny, you and me, neither. Thank you ever so much for your call. I've got enough time to squeeze in some messages here because I've been kind of remiss over the last couple of hours at doing that. Rachel Reeves won't meet unimportant people because the fewer people who hear how clueless she is firsthand, the better. That must be in response to the fact that Rachel Reeves refused to meet anyone from the NFU, even though they came up with a perfect solution to the ridiculous inheritance tax attack on family farms by saying, look, if a farmer wants to sell his fields to make a load of money because he's given those fields to a developer, fine, tax him to the hills. But if he's passing it on to his kids to make sure that they can still farm and therefore not making any money because the land itself isn't being sold, it's actually being used to continue to feed Britain, then they should be exempt. That makes perfect sense. The NFU even think that that would give the government even more money than the poxy 500 million that their farm harming policy is going to make. I mean, come on now. Alex Starmer will put the illegal migrants in non-Labour areas, so when they are given permission to stay, they will vote Labour. That means we have Starmer forever. I'm leaving this country, says Ian. Morning, Alex. Starmer set to press Trump on the Gaza ceasefire. What's he going to do? Reach into his pocket and bring a letter from the king again and touch him? Starmer has no communication skills at all. I don't know if we're going to get any sort of televised version of the meeting between Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump later. I kind of want to see it because it's sort of like, it's almost like rubbernecking a car accident, isn't it? It's so grim how sort of, slippery and sort of, Starmer is. Hi, Donald, I love you. Please don't read my previous tweets where I said nasty things. Don't read my tweets where I said nasty things about you, Cardi. I've always said lovely things about you.
Or David Lammy's tweets as well about Donald Trump.
Do you think he's going to be allowed to Scotland, or is it like put Lammy in that cupboard again?
Well, they've had dinner before and stuff. No, it's, he called him a neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath. Oh no, Donald, you're great now. I'm Foreign Secretary and you're